What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Pigskins and Pinfalls. I'm your host, Dick Burns.
And I'm Bobby Boomerang. That's where we talk everything from franchise tags to Brock and Bobby drags.
I mean, it's also where we talk about everything from coordinator shuffles to Montreal Scuffles. Make sure you click that like, share, subscribe, follow, leave a comment, tell your friends, tell your mama's friends. They probably won't want to watch, but hey, why not? Go ahead and let them know we're here. How you doing today, bud?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's a little later start than we normally do, but we still made it work.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a scheduling change, mix up today. Some emergency stuff came up, and we're just like, hey, well, I mean, if it all works out, why don't we just push until later? And then we have all of today's news to actually talk about, because I was worried. We'll get into it, but today was actually really big for news on the one front, and when we get to it, we'll talk about that point.
Yeah, and like I said before we went live, I do like this new layout we're doing where we just go day by day. Because then we can hit on all the things that happen when we get off stream from last week all the way up until right before we
just go straight from the oldest news to the newest. I forgot to turn my other light on, keep my light balanced out. I was looking a little bit too like pale. I was over here looking like Robert Pattinson in Twilight for a second. I don't know what the hell was going on. Yeah, we ain't vampy. We are not vampy here.
No.
Yeah. So, anything big this week? Anything big happen? How was your weekend?
Weekend was good. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get off in time to watch Elimination Chamber live, but I went ahead and caught it on Sunday, and overall, I will say I was very satisfied with the show.
I can agree.
My intro kind of hinted at what I didn't like.
A lot of people were making their comments, and when we get to talking about Raw, I have some thoughts about that as well.
Without going too much into it, because I know we're gonna go, like I said, day by day, but it doesn't make sense to me. We'll talk about that when we get to Saturday. But overall, the weekend,
Saturday's notes, Monday's notes. I think we'll get to that for sure.
How was your weekend, man? How's everything going on your front?
No, not too bad. I went car shopping for a little bit, trying to see if I could find the next ride. Started looking at some new moves.
I strongly suggest the purple Lamborghini.
If only. I don't know if I can get that in stock just yet, though.
We'll get there.
There was surprisingly very few purple cars on the lot when I went.
My dream is to own a purple. I don't care if it's a purple Fiat. Just I gotta have a purple car.
Bro, there's a purple Charger that runs around my neighborhood, and it looks pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, dude, down here there's literally a guy that goes to a lot of the same places I go to that drives a purple Lamborghini.
Damn.
And I had to introduce him to Rick Ross and Skrillex's Purple Lamborghini song. I was like, please, just one.
Only appropriate.
Please, I was like, please, one day, just pull up blasting this. And he was like, the stereo's not that great in a Lambo. And I'm like, don't tell me that. Like, don't tell me that.
You just get some aftermarket. That's all.
Yeah,
also, I just realized I made coffee and I never actually poured it.
Well, why don't you go get your coffee, and I'll do the best I can to keep everybody entertained.
Yeah, all right. Give me 30 seconds.
Yeah,
keep the kids entertained.
So, unfortunately, we had to start off a little late today. But it actually worked out for the best. Rich had something come up. I had something come up. So we decided, we had normally we like to go live at noon, right? And today we called each other at 11:50, and we both were like, "Hey, noon's not the best," and but because him and I are quite flexible and we've been friends for such a long time, we both understood where the other one was coming from, so we made it work. And we decided a little evening stream wouldn't be bad, and here we are, right around 6:00 tonight, coming at you live, as my co-host likes to say.
Coming at you live from the nation. Well, you're from South Florida, so it's not really.
No, I am from the nation's capital.
You're still from the area. I feel you on that. All right, so let's get into the show. So starting off, we have everything that we'll rewind all the way back a full week now to all the news that we left off with after we got off the air last week. We received the unfortunate news of the passing of both Jerry Jarrett and Conrad Dobler. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
you
Rest in
mentioned
peace to both of them.
Dobler, one of the first dirty players in the NFL, as
Yeah,
like his
yeah,
legacy.
yeah. I remember back in the day, the NFL Network had like a show called Top Ten,
Hmm.
and they had one like Top Ten. I don't think it was dirtiest players, but like they had like a top 10 list, and they had and they were saying like, yeah, he was one of the original people that like he wasn't there to make friends, and like back then they didn't really play for the money. He was like, I'm here to hurt you.
Hmm.
And yeah, he was big part of the Cardinals organization back in the day. And then obviously Jerry Jarrett,
Hmm.
massive name in the wrestling industry.
Absolutely. Jerry Jarrett, of course, the father of Jeff Jarrett. They did their work founding and leading a lot of Memphis wrestling in the early 70s and 80s. Definitely in that golden era when we were still in the territory days. He was kind of one of the grandfathers of the early territory systems. When when WWF at the time was really kind of pushing out of the Northeast and out of New England, further down south. The one place they really could never get a foothold was Memphis, and a lot of that was
Yeah.
because of Jarrett Promotions. So
Hmm.
definitely two outright legends in
Oh,
history, just
yeah.
on a historical level.
Yeah.
We send our condolences to the families for
Yep.
sure. And I made a note on that as well for Dynamite that to Jeff Jarrett starting the night out and just starting in that eight man tag match and putting in a hell of a show.
Hmm.
Of course, didn't get the
He's in
win.
his 50s, right?
He's in his 50s, yeah, somewhere in there,
Hmm.
50s or 60s. Man's getting up there, but he's a legend in his own right. Well, you got to think because
Yeah.
he
Oh,
was
absolutely, he is.
so. If you figure he was maybe he's got to be in his 60s because he had to have been in his 30s during the Attitude Era.
He was born in '67.
Okay, so he just like he's in those late 50s, mid late 50s, 56.
If my quick math is correct, he'll turn 56 this year.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, 56. Yeah, one of those old standovers or holdovers, whatever the word is I'm looking for here. He's
I
just
mean,
one
yeah,
of those.
dude, he was part of Attitude Era, WCW, and like,
Yeah, I mean,
there's not a whole lot of people from that
I
era
grew
still
up
coming.
on Jeff Jarrett,
Oh
JEFF,
yeah,
JARRETT. Like, I grew up on like that's you grow up on that stuff, and it's like that's stuff that hits you. Like, and I know like my dad, like when he was getting into wrestling, like in the early days, like
Rudy.
that's
Who?
when you're breaking up. By the way,
Give me 1 second here.
I don't know if you have like a bunch of stuff on in your background that can actually slow you down a little bit, but
Is this better? I switched to browsers, Wi-Fi.
it's coming in a little bit. You're getting better. You're clearing up a little bit. You don't look like a giant blob as much anymore. You can at least you can at least like see your face now. Anyways, moving on from there, we have the first of well, actually no, it's probably the last of the head coaching hiring so far, with Jonathan Gannon officially signing on as the Cardinals head coach. Not gonna be the last for sure, but that also goes into a lot of the coordinator shuffling that's going around. You always hear about the coaching carousel around this time of the year. The head coaches start filling in. It seems like a lot of the teams that were in the head coaching hunt have pretty much solidified that now. So everyone's going into coordinator hiring, and we've been seeing a lot of that all throughout the week, really. Just to name a couple, we had Vic Fangio sign on as the Dolphins defensive coordinator, which. Are you frozen? Yo, we might have lost Chris. Hold that thought. Nope. And we're back.
Sorry,
Nope, you're good.
I switched over to a different internet
Yeah, you're coming
Wi-Fi.
in a lot.
thing.
Yeah, you're coming in clear, a lot clearer now. Or you
All right,
were.
yeah.
Hold that thought. There we go. Yep, now you're good.
Sorry about that, my friend. The last thing I heard you say was the coordinator hiring process, and then I lost you.
Yeah, it happens. Gotta love it. Gotta love technology. We'll get you up there one of these days. No, so just all week we've really been seeing like the coordinator shuffle really been like kicking in lately. Just to name a couple that we've had going on, the Dolphins officially named Vic Fangio as the defensive coordinator. Eric Bieniemy leaves Kansas City to join the Commanders as their offensive coordinator.
I want to touch on that.
Go for it.
I want to touch on that.
I know you have some thoughts.
It does not make sense to me why Bieniemy would do that.
I agree.
It's a lateral move, and look. No disrespect to Sam Howell, no disrespect to Carson Wentz, no disrespect to Taylor Heineke. They're all NFL players. That's nothing. Like that's more than I can ever say about my football career, which ended in high school, right?
Yeah.
But you went from Patrick Mahomes to those three guys, and you go from all of the weapons that you like. You literally just won the Super Bowl. You won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And now you're going to go to a dumpster fire of an organization.
The money had to have been good.
It had to have been, but like
but at the same time, it's the Commanders. So it's like, how good can the money really be?
Exactly. And you're going to an organization run by one of the worst human beings in the NFL.
What if this is part of the start of like getting? Because of course, like there's all the big discussion is still what's gonna happen with Snyder. He's got those federal level lawsuits coming at him still.
Yeah.
Like there's still a lot to be determined when it comes to the Commanders this year. And
absolutely. And I don't know if you saw this or not, but they've already come out and said that they're sticking with their plan and that their QB1 next year is going to be Sam Howell.
I don't get it, but I mean, I'm interested.
I didn't understand when they went and got Carson Wentz. I was like, you literally have a man that you played against in the division. He sprained both of his ankles on one play. Like that's not even like injury prone. That is literally incredible. Spraining both ankles on one play, like bro.
That's Vince McMahon tearing his quads at the 05 Rumble.
Exactly. And
that's freak accident levels right there.
Like it doesn't make sense to me, and like the only other thing that I can think of outside of money would be like Snyder trying to save face by like bringing in a well-respected NFL coordinator or an offensive coordinator.
At that point, though, it would have to be the money that lures him in.
Yeah.
There's just nothing that can justify why he would leave the Chiefs for the Commanders if for a, like you said, a lat move.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. That's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that, but that's a really good point.
But I mean, we'll see. I still think Washington is years away from being competitive.
Oh, absolutely. They've got some time. It
I
ain't
understand
happening anytime soon.
There was a moment this season where all four NFC East teams were in the playoffs, or in playoff hunt. I'm sorry. But
I mean, it's easy to make the playoff hunt at the bottom of your division when you have an entire division that's being a complete dumpster fire.
NFC East was not a dumpster fire.
No, the NFC South was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier to get one of those wild card spots when you have an entire division like burning in the weeds.
The whole division doesn't want to make the playoffs. NFC East was there a few years ago. It's okay.
Oh, I remember that. Trust me, I remember those years.
Yeah.
Those years were definitely laughable. Speaking of my Panthers, though, we hired Thomas Brown as the offensive coordinator.
Y'all's coaching tree is stacked.
It really is.
Looking at those names on paper is impressive.
Like I was getting a lot of the alerts for like us hiring like our linebackers coach, our secondaries coach, and like some of the names that like Avero is really pulling in a lot of his like Denver guys, and they're like, no, we're reforming that Denver defense, like nucleus around like Brian Burns and possibly Jeremy Chin. Like we still have some great hitters. We've got some great young hitters on our team. We need
Absolutely.
we lost a lot of our like star players over the years to
Mm-hmm.
injuries, retirements, free agency, whatever. But I think that once we start, especially this year with us having 7 draft picks and six of them on the first 2 days alone, like
That's solid.
that's very solid.
If they
It
can
might
hit,
be
if they can
it's either
hit in the
five or
draft,
six. It's either five or
if they can
six.
hit in the draft, it'll be it'll. I
If
mean,
we can hit in the draft like the Jets did last year, we will be easy front runners for the NFC South title.
agreed,
Easy front runners.
agreed.
Let's see. Any other ones that I saw? We might as well just knock out all of those while we're at it. Gannon actually he picked his 2 coordinators. He's bringing in Nick Rollis with him from the Eagles. He was formerly the linebackers coach, and then former Cleveland quarterbacks coach Drew Petzing is coming in as offensive coordinator. I don't know anything about the guy. I'm gonna be honest.
Me either. Me either.
But good for him.
But Philly's coaching locker room, for
that
lack of a
tree
better
too.
word.
Yeah, that coaching tree
Philly's-
too is.
Yeah, but who's left in Philly? It's Nick Sirianni, and that's it.
Well, so I did see that, like, I think they mentioned who they're already, like, they promoted, I think it was their linebackers coach to defensive coordinator. Hey, Neon, what's up? Legit thought you had the epic mealtime guy, Harley. What's up? What's going on, Neon?
I've gotten that so many times in my life.
You used to get that all the time. We were working together, even.
Yep.
Legitimately,
Yep.
like, you used to get that, like, at least once or twice a week.
Oh yeah.
Especially when you were bartending. Oh, like bartending up here still?
Yep.
Words.
Yep.
So yeah, that's and another one, Jim Bob Cooter, everyone's favorite name for a coach.
Best name in the NFL.
Best coaching
Jim Bob
name in
Cooter.
the NFL, and also a damn good offensive coordinator. Leaving Jacksonville and going to Indianapolis to serve as their offensive coordinator. How do you feel about that one?
Indy needs the help.
Indy needs this, but again, like we talked about lat moves with the Bieniemy move to Washington, and this one at least still does make sense because yeah, like it's Jacksonville. Like your offense was not the problem last year.
No.
The offense was not the problem in Jacksonville. So if you can keep like somebody that has the knowledge. Because I think if I remember correctly, they did say they promoted from within as well to the OC position. And then Jim Bob gets an opportunity to really help out that Indy team that you're right, they really need the help.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it does. I do think organization-wise, it might be a bit of maybe not organization-wise, but maybe skill level-wise, it's a step down going from Jacksonville to Indy because Jacksonville had that amazing comeback in the playoffs, but I think money talks in that situation as well, and also the Colts are a lot younger. Actually, Jacksonville's a young team, so maybe I might be wrong on that, but I think the Colts have look. They have Jonathan Taylor, who yes, he had a down year, but he is still arguably top 5 running backs in the league.
There's still a lot of people are still projecting that Indy's going to draft C.J. Stroud.
Yeah,
And I think that's a great fit. So that's going to be adding though to the youth of that team. Who a lot of their receiving core actually was one of the youngest in the league as well last year.
Paris Campbell.
Paris Campbell. Who's the guy that like busted out? I just had his name on the tip of my tongue there for a moment. Alec Pierce. He it wasn't like a star-making performance, but he showed out. He made a name for himself.
He came into his own at the end of the year for sure.
Things started clicking there towards the end of the year for sure.
Still curious to see what they do at QB, whether they draft somebody because clearly
It's gotta be Stroud.
their rent a quarterback system didn't work.
I think right now, Indianapolis is in a position, especially because they do still have a lot of veteran help. Especially just everywhere. Plus, I don't know, is there any discussion about keeping Jeff Saturday around? At least just like no,
Nope.
just
Nope.
not
They
at all.
said that he would not be back.
All right, I mean that's fair. He gave it a shot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And that's what he said in his press conference, man. He's like, man, I might be awful at this, and I'll tell you guys, good luck. Thanks for having me.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it didn't work out for him, and it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I thought he did a great job, at least with with the pieces that he had. I think he did a good job.
Yeah. I mean, they asked him to put together a puzzle with all the puzzle pieces being upside down.
Yeah.
He didn't have.
That was one of those jigsaw puzzles that's all black, and it's just figure it out.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, you have 30 minutes.
Right. Exactly. And credit to him for stepping up, because he could have easily been like, I'm not doing this. You know what I mean? But he gave it his all, and maybe this leads to another coaching job later on down the line somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was actually a note that I put down in here as well. Not necessarily. This is an interesting move as well. Chargers defensive coordinator Ronaldo Hill leaving to rejoin Vic Fangio in Miami as the linebacker coach.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
I like it too, but that's an interesting one, because you're literally that's a downgrade. Technically. But at the same time, I don't think Ronaldo Hill really made enough of a name for himself as a defensive coordinator. He can afford to have a few more years in the oven, and learning under Vic Fangio is a great way to do it.
Absolutely. You literally just took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say, again, we go back to that collapse they had in the playoffs, and, him joining Fangio in Miami, where, if Tua's healthy all season last year, Miami might make a little bit more noise in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
And I don't think, because again, I'm down here in this area, so I get a lot of Miami Dolphins talk, and I don't think the Dolphins are that far away from making a push.
Everyone was saying they were going to push last year, and then it just so happened that all the concussions came into play, and
that is where most Dolphin fans that I know are torn. Half of them want Tua gone, half of them think Tua is the answer.
It's all a matter of if you are willing to give them the faith after all those concussions.
Exactly, that's the biggest. If you down here, a lot of the people are talking it's. A lot of the conversations about the Dolphin are strictly about Tua. You don't hear them talking about any. They're not talking about their receivers because they got Waddle and Hill.
They have nothing to worry about there. It doesn't matter. Honestly, at this point, it doesn't matter. Well, I shouldn't say that. It does matter who's throwing at him. Skylar Crawford proved that last year, or this
Thompson.
year. Skylar Thompson, yeah. Skylar Thompson.
But yeah, I mean, the main point of contention down here with Miami fans is Tua.
Skylar Crawford is someone I went to high school with.
Shout out to Tyler Crawford. Wherever you may be, my friend. But yeah, I think like you said, in the oven, a couple more years, learning from Vic Fangio, who is an incredible defensive mind. I see no harm with that at all.
Yeah, really the best way to put it. Continue on with NFL news from last Tuesday. We had the official release of Derek Carr.
Yep. I wasn't able to prove my Nostradamus like you did when we were talking about Daniel Jones, but I did tell my roommate the night before, I was like, I'll be shocked if Derek Carr is on the Raiders tomorrow. And sure enough, he ended up getting released.
You said that during the show last week even. Yeah. You brought it up. When we were talking about it, you definitely brought it up. It was just I don't see it. It's definitely it's the writing's on the wall. It just hadn't happened yet. They had said that they were planning on it. The move hadn't been made. And then I think it was 2 hours after we went off the air was when it was made official.
Yeah, that sounds about right. About 2 hours after we went off. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure that was, the first thing that I said to you after we got off stream was Derek Carr officially released.
Yeah.
Because, that's...
Actually, the first thing you texted me was about Conrad Dobler.
Yeah.
And then I fired back
little
Jerry
peek
Terry.
behind the scenes for everybody. When things like that happen, we do text one another to give the other a heads up in case one of us misses the news.
Yeah, I mean it happens, and usually just because of the fact that it's just hey, did you see this? No, not yet. Oh, there's a notification, and then we'll just put it on the note sheet.
Yep.
The note sheet was probably the best.
That moves us along to NXT notes.
Okay.
From last week. Yeah. And I gotta be honest with you, man. I I think I've been away from NXT for so long that I can't get back into it. It's tough
It's
for me.
definitely different. It's one of those things that you really have to. I feel like NXT now, especially in the current age, with like a lot of these new with this new breed that's coming in, and just because there is so much turnover and whatnot, and it does feel like a lot of their faces right now are a little rocky, and they need a little bit of work. And
Who's
going
running NXT?
Shawn Michaels,
Okay.
yeah, Shawn Michaels runs NXT now.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah. He's basically like, hey, Hunter's taking over the main roster. I'm going to go ahead and take over NXT for him. There you
Look
go.
out for your friends. I don't blame Trips at all.
I mean, we all know how much of a professional that Shawn Michaels in his later years are.
Correct.
1990 Shawn Michaels, absolutely not. 2020 Shawn Michaels, that's the guy you want backstage running the show.
Correct.
On that note, though, when it comes to talking about how it just doesn't feel like it's there for some of the other guys, that was one of the first things I noted is that
Yep.
Braun Breaker is not over anymore. I think he has fizzled out. He needs to drop the belt like tomorrow.
What's there left for him to do?
They're really he's run through everybody except for Carmelo Hayes at this point, which they're positioning Carmelo to be the next person in line for Stand and Deliver, and I see that, and the crowd wants it. That crowd was hot for Mello and Warren, for both. Like they came out, Braun's sitting here cutting this promo, Jinder comes out, and they're literally screaming for Mello and Waller to save them,
Yeah.
and it's just like. The crowd has turned on you. And even Jinder, like, part of his promo was the crowd has turned on you.
Yeah. I think Braun is a great Raw after Mania call up.
Absolutely.
The problem is we still have 40 days until Mania.
Yeah. Well, and that's fine, because then that gives them 40 days to build up this feud. Because we all see that Mello is going to be next in line. And honestly, Mello probably is the most over person in NXT right now.
Yeah.
Easily. So it makes sense that they're lining him up for it, but they're like them putting this whole like gender in the way with Indusher. Like, what's the purpose in that? Go ahead and just get this feud going with Mello. You're spinning wheels until then. I get that we have 6 weeks until Stand and Deliver, but like we can't be spinning wheels. You have 6 weeks so you can be like building that feud to be like white hot. And at least getting some heat back for Breaker before he drops that title. Otherwise, Breaker's dropping that title, and then there's a good possibility that he just becomes filler in the mid card on the main roster as soon as he gets called up. Do you really want that?
Right, because they've done all this work building up Braun. You want to continue that momentum. You don't want him to take a step back.
So it's one of those situations where they need to do something because you don't have the people that the fans want in the main roster, like in the main event. It's what happened when everyone turned on Roman 10 years ago. Well, like closer to 6 or 7, but still.
Yeah.
Let's not age ourselves too much.
Right.
But it's the same concept. It's just like
It
this point, you're trying to shove them down our throats, and we don't want them. And it's just like the fans want something different. Mello has the most character right now. Waller, we all thought Waller was gonna win it.
Yeah. Sure.
I was expecting Waller to take the title at Vengeance Day, and it just never happened.
That leaves Carmelo.
Yeah, that's really like there is nobody left on your roster to take that belt except Mello. Braun has already beaten everyone else.
Yeah.
And that's the
and
problem.
that's the problem, and that's the same exact problem they're facing with Roman. And thank God Cody came back when he did.
Legitimately, I think them bringing Cody back was specifically because they realized they booked themselves into a corner by having him beat literally everyone. You had to find somebody from the outside to beat him at this point.
Yep.
With the exception of the fact that the Sammy storyline got white hot at the right time.
Yeah, it did.
We'll get to that.
Yes, we will.
Last week, when I was talking about NXT, I made a comment about Katana Chance and Kaden Carter losing their titles and then turning heel on Roxy. And I was like, please, for the love of God, do not make this a permanent thing. Immediately redacted. They started out the day. They started out the episode with like, "Hey, we're sorry. We were just mad because we lost our titles. No hard feelings. We still want to fight you and Mako though." And it inevitably
Why
leads.
not?
The match was great. It was a great match. Heavy hitting. Again, Mako is an all-time great,
Yeah,
future Hall of Famer at this point.
absolutely.
I mean, her work from the '90s, even like until they really like brought up like her history in WCW a couple years ago, and like when that started getting traction, it's just like, oh damn, she was in WCW back then.
Hmm.
Holy shit, I've been watching Mako for 30 years.
Right.
So,
One of those who's had that long of a career, and you almost don't even realize it.
and so it's like congratulations to Mako, and then it made all the sense in the world, and I don't know why I didn't see it coming. That match ends. Obviously, Roxy and Mako pick up the win, and then Mako challenge is like, "I did this for you. Now you have to give me a championship match." And Roxy's like, "Absolutely, I'd be my honor. Let's go." I
Yeah.
Here's my thing. I like Roxy. I think Roxanne Perez is a great champion. I think she's still really young. I think she still has a lot of building to go, and that's gonna happen. And it'll inevitably lead. They're just inevitably building up to when Cora Jade takes that title off of her as well.
Yeah.
Her being so young and still having so much work to do, I'm worried she's gonna shoot up the card too soon. Especially with her having the title now, and the fact that they had to do the whole getting it off of Mandy in the time period, like that whole thing. So I'm happy to see it. I think it's going to be a hell of a match. Whether they do it on TV or they do it at Stand and Deliver, either way, I'm happy for it. And we'll see where that goes.
Yep.
Chase U. I love Chase U. I'm sorry. I love Chase U. I think this gimmick is so wild. Like I was so like not sold on the idea of a university like teaching gimmick and everything and when they first came out with Andre Chase. I thought he wasn't like he didn't look like he fit the role. He reminded me a lot of Aiden English in his early years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I like that comparison.
But they've really come into their own. They've all massively improved. Tia Hall, the crowd being behind her, and this whole thing they got they're teasing now with Chase U and Schism. I want to see where that goes. I think, honestly, quietly, I like Schism. I think just like having a cult similar to like not quite in the Bray Wyatt fashion, but like in a
Right.
everyone's just happy, drink your Kool-Aid kind of happy, kind of cult. I love the idea of that. I love where they're going with it. I think it's creative. It's not complete. It's been done before, but not been done before. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Like this is what NXT is still good for.
It's just enough.
Yeah,
Be
this is
different.
what NXT is good for. Is still like you're there to build your character, and you're still getting some very creative characters out of this new batch. Like
Yep.
this new batch of performance center recruits that we keep getting. These new batches, they come up with so much like creative, like groundbreaking stuff that you can't go wrong. This also being the Valentine's Day episode, they had to build up that whole Tatum Paxley, Kiana James, Briggs and Jensen storyline that I've been talking about. I just have not been happy with. And
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but last week watching all the Valentine segments, it builds up to the whole Tatum breaking into the like busting in the middle of the date and like ruining Briggs' chance at getting a kiss or Jensen's chance at getting a kiss or goodnight kiss or whatever. Like, and then it's the whole like she's being unfaithful, and then she's like, "Yeah, I said I love you to my brother. Keep your nose out of my business." Like the whole thing, like the whole storyline is cheesy. It's like teenage B movie comedy. I've been too hard on everybody. I have come to the conclusion I've been too hard on all of them. I think that yes, the storyline is a little cringe, but at the same
They're
time,
giving it their all.
they are. I like every single one of them was giving everything for that, like for their roles. They were all playing it entirely well. They're all great character actors in that aspect, and
Yeah.
they're not bad. None of those four are bad in the ring. I just didn't vibe with the story. And honestly, the story, like again, it's sophomoric is the best way to put it.
Mhm.
It feels like it's something out of a high school teen dating movie, but at the same time, think about the audiences they're trying to cater to,
Correct.
especially with NXT being the colorful brand.
Yep.
I
They're going for that younger audience.
and I've softened. I've softened on my view. It's finally clicking. Um, Speaking of things clicking right when they need to, I was just this whole like Hank Walker, the security guard thing that was been going on with him, Gulak, and Charlie Dempsey. I was
Gabagool.
Gabagulak. I was so prepared to say that Gulak is just done. Or like I was just over this entire thing, and I was just like, "Where's this going?" It's getting very stale very quickly. And then they have the match Walker versus Dempsey. Dempsey wins, and Gulak turns on him and walks
Yep.
out with Dempsey. And I was literally just getting ready to say like they need to pull the trigger on this, and they pulled the trigger. So
Yeah. Timing was perfect.
it really was. And then of course we get a Von Wagner return, attacks Wesley going for the North American Championship, and now they're doing this whole like you need to break down your walls and like be more emotional. Please, for the love of God, let something happen with Von Wagner. He's too either that or just make him a Heyman guy and just be
Ooh.
done with it. That was one of the other things. Somebody brought up a really good point that when it comes to Braun, the big issue with Braun and why everybody's turning on him, you have that same NXT Orlando crowd every week. They're the ones that are getting tired of him. You put Braun out on the road on the main roster, people aren't getting sick of him as quickly.
Correct.
You're not as overexposed to him as the NXT crowd has been.
I think that's a great point that not a lot of people realize. I think that's a really, really good point because I have a friend down here who he drives to Orlando every week to go and watch NXT.
Yeah.
And like that right there, I have a friend who goes every week. You know what I mean? Like,
But that's
when
also
you're on the
why
main
they do it
roster-
there is because they have the local crowds. Let's not
Yeah.
forget that Impact is taping right across the street over at Universal now, at the old
Yeah.
Nickelodeon space.
And like when you're on the main roster, when those people come to town, it's more special, right? Because like we don't get to see them that often. You know, like that's why you and I jumped at the bit to go to the first AEW or SmackDown 1000. Like these are not an opportunity that we're gonna get, but maybe if we're lucky, twice a year.
Yeah. Well,
You know,
and the other thing about that, like, from the moment that Braun got into NXT, he was immediately positioned in the main event, and was immediately going for the world championship. He has been nowhere but the main title pick, like the main
Right.
event, since he got there. So there is a level of overexposure.
but when you start at the top, there's only one direction you can go. Right.
Yep. So that's pretty much it. And then the only other thing we have from surprisingly what's taking us so long to get through last week, but again because we were touching on a bunch of the other stuff that was talked about, like we've been bouncing around a little bit. One of my favorite things the WWE is doing right now
Yes. Yes. Strong agree.
is the fact that Dominic attacks Rey Mysterio every holiday. It has
I
now
was
become
shocked.
every holiday. I was not expecting this because they did Halloween and then they did Thanksgiving and then they did Christmas. And I'm just like, all right, they did the 3-parter. They're clearly building this up. I was not prepared for a Valentine's Day video.
Yeah.
I was not. And then sure enough, there's Dom and Rhea interrupting a Valentine's Day dinner being posted to Twitter, and I'm just geeking.
Yeah, when he said it's a sting, I can't go back to the pen. I lost it, dude. Like that, they're doing this slow. Like this is the best slow build ever, in my opinion.
Well, I don't know the best because we're right on the tail end of the Bloodline storyline right now, and
That's
that's.
true.
But
That's
my
true.
God, this is like it makes you want this inevitable Dom versus Ray match at Mania so much more.
Yeah. And I heard something, I can't remember where, but I heard somebody say that like they're potentially positioning this to be a mask versus hair match at Mania.
Ooh.
And I like that a lot.
Well, not only that, but there's always been the big discussion. Ray is Ray is a legend. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, hands down, no questions asked. He's openly stated for years now that he wants to end his career after doing a run with Dominic. They've already been tag champs.
Yep.
They've already had their split. The only thing that's been left to do now, the only thing that's left now is for the two of them to face each other. And they've been pushing this off and pushing this off. And it feels like we're getting it at Mania, which is the right call.
Agreed.
And if this is going to be a mask versus hair match, is this the end of Rey Mysterio's career?
I think it is. And like honestly, dude, Dominic Mysterio is the second best heel in WWE right now. He is. He's not on Roman level. He's not on Roman level, but I don't think anybody is. He's on God
I
level.
would not say second though.
Who? Who?
Gunther?
Nope.
No?
Nope. Because Gunther, in my opinion, and that's the beautiful thing about wrestling is you and I can watch the
It's
same show.
subjective. Yeah, I mean,
Right. We can watch the same show and have two completely different reactions to it. But in my opinion, like Gunther's not doing enough to be like Dom is being like the perfect smarmy heel, thinks he's better than what he really is.
He's being definitely more smarmy heel, but Gunther's more of the
Gunther
ass beating. Like, I don't care who you are, I'm
It's-
just gonna beat the fucking shit out of you.
And that doesn't. But yes, that makes he is a heel. Like I know that Gunther is a heel. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not doing heel antics.
No, he's just good for the sake of being good, and you can't beat him. He's final
I think-
boss status.
Right. And I think if you do a hair versus mask match, if Ray decides, you know what, I'm not done, then okay, Dom loses and Dom shaves his head. If Ray decides, yeah, this is it, this is my last match, this is how I'm going out, imagine the heat that Dominic Mysterio will get the Raw after Mania when he comes out wearing his dad's mask.
But let's also not forget the whole point of being Dom is working to earn his father's mask. And that would be a way of literally earning his father's mask.
Agreed.
So, and again, like this is Rey Mysterio we're talking about here. That mask has transcended the wrestling industry. You see that mask in pop culture.
Yep.
He is a huge part of Mexican culture. He's got his own cartoon.
Yep.
Like
He is
so
that guy.
So
when you think Lucha Libre, you think Rey Mysterio.
Exactly. Like, you know, it's insane. I was literally thinking the other day, like when everyone talks about like the roots of like their love for wrestling. Yeah, I've been watching wrestling since like the early to mid '90s with my dad. But what really honestly made me fall in love with wrestling was the cruiserweight division in '96 in WCW, and 4 names specifically, and that's Juventud Guerrera, Eddie Guerrero, Ultima Dragon, Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
And
Ray's the only one still doing it.
And like as somebody that was again like maybe like 7, 8 years old, seeing all these giants on their screen and in person and all that stuff, and thinking, oh, I'm small, I'm never gonna be able to do that kind of stuff. And even like I'm smaller in stature than most people. I'm never going to be 200 and something pounds and jacked like that. I'm never gonna be 6'7" and 270. Like,
right.
But even as a kid, like watching the cruiserweights, like it was just like, wait, the little guys can still put in their work as well. And it was
shit, I can do that. Like that. That goes back to like representation and inclusivity. Like, and Rey Mysterio provides that for so many people, so many different types of people. You know, you
me and Rey Mysterio are literally the same size.
Yeah, and like you touched on it, right? Like with him being such a Mexican icon, so like he's inclusive towards like that group of people. He's inclusive towards people that are shorter. Like, and I mean, let's not forget that Rey Mysterio was world heavyweight champion.
Mm-hmm.
He went from a cruiserweight division where you hear a lot, like that's why Jericho came to WWE. Was
Jericho's another one of those that was part of that
Yeah.
same cruiserweight division, putting it on those same classic matches.
And I think if Dominic beats him and takes his mask, it's a great way to get more heat for somebody who is already playing a great heel.
100%. All right, so we've made it through Tuesday notes finally. Getting into Wednesday, let's go back to the NFL for a moment. Shouts out to Calvin Ridley, now officially available for reinstatement, has applied for reinstatement to the league on his first day of eligibility.
Never should have been suspended to begin with.
You think they let him back in?
Yeah.
Yeah?
If they let Josh Gordon come back in after all his failed marijuana tests, I don't see how they're not going to let Calvin Ridley come back in.
Because
for gambling in a game he wasn't even playing in.
The sports world and gambling, you know how strict they are about that, though. Look at Pete Rose.
Pete Rose, yeah.
Look at Pete Rose. I mean, they are always... The sports world has always been really strict about sports betting if you're a player. And it makes sense because you're part of the league. You're not trying to influence it. I do believe, though, that 1 year is enough time served. And
I think it's more than enough time served.
Yeah.
And I also think it's time that the NFL gets with the times and modernizes a little bit.
They won't let the players bet on themselves, though. That's not going to be a thing.
He wasn't even playing. He was out with an injury, and he made a parlay that included the Falcons.
I agree, but still.
Yeah.
It's one of those situations you're better off just not crossing the red tape.
Yeah. And where did Calvin Ridley end up? He's not with Atlanta.
He's in Jacksonville
anymore.
now.
Jacksonville, that's right. That's a nice weapon for Trevor Lawrence.
Absolutely. Imagine
That's a
getting
nice
him
weapon.
back and the Jags putting on another run to the AFC South title this year.
Very possible.
It's very possible. I mean, granted, like the other three teams in that division are gonna be hunting this year, but I don't know.
I mean, that
The
might
Jags
be the
are gonna be a great team next year.
Yeah, that might be the Jags division to lose next year.
It might be because you got to figure the Colts are gonna be too busy trying to figure everything out. Houston's going to be putting the pieces together. If Houston is still in the middle of putting the pieces back together, especially with this being the first year for D'Amico. I feel like they're going to be doing some work. And Tennessee, I don't think they're really in a position. I think
Tennessee is crumbling.
I think so too. I think right now, like especially if they need to figure out what's going on in that quarterback position.
Yeah.
The Bears.
The Bears.
They closed on a 326-acre property in Arlington Park, which is north of Chicago. It's kind of like Chicagoland. I was doing a little bit of research on this because the article came up, and I was like, let me do some research on this. So the whole big argument right now, the city of Chicago wants to keep the Bears at Soldier Field. They haven't said whether they're going to stay, like, whether they're going to renew the lease at Soldier Field or if they're going to go ahead and use this new plot of land and build new training facilities and, like, a new stadium or all that kind of stuff. I mean, again, I live up here, and you're from this area here in Commanders country, where the consistent argument of what's going to happen to the Commanders, do they go to FedEx Field, do they build where RFK used to be, are they going to move out to Northern Virginia? That's a consistent argument, and I see what it does for economies.
Yeah. Because you figure the Commanders specifically are labeled as a DC team that practice in Virginia but play in Maryland.
Exactly. We are the entirety of the DMV. So it's like, it's weird to have all of this, like, being in the news and then not having it interact directly with you and seeing it in a different city and seeing how they're reacting to it, because they're being very cordial about it. Things in DC have never been cordial during these talks. It has always been, like, blatantly, like, disrespectful and just so difficult to work with everybody. And, like, the fact that RFK is, I think, technically considered federal land, all the legal aspects that go, or actually, no, I think the fact that it's not federal land, they want grants and everything for DC to build there, whatnot. there's so many like laws and everything that go into it. That's always a
Red
big
tape.
issue. So I see where Chicago's coming from with the same aspects because
Yeah.
that's a big hit to what is essentially a major downtown attraction for your
Yep.
city.
Yep.
And if everybody's gonna move out to the suburbs, it's the equivalent of saying that the Commanders are gonna go post up in Ashburn,
Yeah.
in Loudoun County,
Yeah.
and they just become the Northern Virginia Commanders. It's not to that drastic of a level, but it's same energy.
Curious to see how this plays out.
I am too. It's definitely something to keep an eye on for our Chicago fans for sure.
Yep.
Dynamite notes. Again, I'm trying to cut back on like doing the whole like reviewing segment after segment after segment. Maybe once we get to a point where we're actually doing like separate review videos, maybe then we'll go back to doing that. Maybe I'll have to start making that a thing.
Yeah, and again, Wednesdays are a busy day for me, so I am
Yeah.
totally lost when it comes to AEW. So I will let you take this one.
Yeah, I mean I don't have a lot of notes.
No, you don't. I'm looking at them right now.
Yeah.
You don't.
And again, it's just like it's all stuff that I put in, like just through from like the headlines. So a big headline that was coming out of before the show, there was a big talent meeting backstage, and basically what they went and did was discuss, hey, Thunder Rosa's coming back on the road. She's gonna be doing Spanish commentary. Everybody make peace. And honestly, I'm happy. I'm happy with that. I'm very happy with it because, again, we always hear about issues lately with people in AEW. There being a lot of issues with backstage fights and arguments, and we're hearing more and more of them come out every week. So it's like to see.
Not a good look.
It's really not. And again, it's been detracting a lot of people away from the brand. We'll get into Tony Khan's own heat later. Oh my god. And so like it's good to see Thunder Rosa trying to make her amends, trying to get back in everybody's good graces. I think she's definitely one of those people. She's got an ego on her. She's one of the more egotistical characters in the women's wrestling scene. But I think she doesn't do things with ill intent. I think she's just got a fiery personality, and it happens. So to hear that there's at least one bridge that's being rebuilt, it's a good thing to hear, and especially in a women's division that really needs like some solidarity, and she can definitely bring that solidarity back once she gets healthy.
I agree.
Her and Britt do still need to run it back though. Hangman versus Mox is now going to be a Texas death match at Revolution. I forget who it was that said it, but at this point, Moxley's just bleeding for the sake of bleeding. Like, it feels like every time you see a Jon Moxley match, he has to bleed, and he has to bleed hard for the sake of bleeding hard. Like,
He comes from the deathmatch scene, man.
Yeah, and I get that, but it's like, on regular television, you don't need to bleed every match.
I agree.
It takes away. This is the big issue we saw during the Ruthless Aggression era, was that there's too much blood. Everyone's bleeding to the point where it loses its luster.
Correct.
Like,
it's not as important.
Yeah, like when you saw blood in the Attitude Era because it was still fresh and was still new, and they didn't overdo it. It was only like every couple weeks or so you saw blood, and it was only a tiny little bit. This is at the point now where it's like every week we're getting a Moxley match and he's just full Crimson Mask.
Yeah.
And it's losing its effect.
Law of diminishing returns.
Yeah, perfect way to describe it. Law of diminishing returns. I mean, he bled during this match where him and Claudio versus Roosh and Preston Vance. And I'm just like, why? What was the need for the blood on what is the 8:30 match on a Wednesday night?
Yeah,
you don't need to bleed. He's punch drunk. That's literally what I wrote in my notes. Is he might be punch drunk.
Well,
I still love Max Caster's line from the opening 8-man tag, the love for Jarrett's dad, and he just turns right around. It's like, hey, but you're still a douchebag. That made me pop. They win that 8-man tag. It was them and I forget who all else. Bunch of people versus a bunch of people. Actually, I do remember that they said that this was like the 4th time that Sanjay Dutt has wrestled since retiring and like coming back, and all 4 matches have just been him like being backed up by Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett and like their whole little quartet. I forget what they call themselves. It's whatever.
I don't have much of an opinion about that, to be honest with you. That's why I'm just kind of sitting here.
Exactly. And then after that match, after the Acclaim gets the win, they mentioned that the Guns, current AEW tag champs, are putting the titles up in what was going to be a triple threat match against the winners of a battle royal this week and a regular battle royal this week and a casino battle royal next week. And then Acclaim come in and say, excuse me, we still get a rematch clause and you're adding us to that match. So I guess at Revolution we're getting a 4-team match. 4 corners. Is it going to be elimination? Is it going to be first pin to the win?
Yeah.
I don't know, but multi-man matches like that in AEW, honestly, where it's not just 2 sides, where it's like multiple sides coming at each other, that can get interesting. I don't think we've seen a proper 4-way like a 4-way. I mean, we've seen 4-way singles matches. I don't think we've seen a 4-way doubles match in AEW yet. I could be wrong. I could very well be wrong, but not one that's really coming to mind. And I think that it could definitely make for some interesting television for sure.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So you do have a note here, and I, as somebody who did not watch AEW, I immediately, when I read the notes and I saw this, I immediately raised an eyebrow. Mm-hmm. But I didn't ask you about it on purpose so we could talk about it on stream.
Sure.
The next note that you have from Dynamite is Punk on his way back?
Yeah. So
how, why, what?
So there's been a lot, like on commentary, they were making little teases, like I think it was MJF kept throwing around best in the world again, and like the fact that they keep throwing around best in the world and all this kind of stuff, and a lot of other like Punk catchphrases, it really makes people start to wonder if maybe he's at least ironed things out with Tony enough to at least come back and make some money off of all of the heat that he has on him.
So it's not it's nothing concrete, but it's similar to Edge and Beth Phoenix with the Shatter Machine. Just like a little nod to it.
We hadn't even talked about that yet, but yes, it kinda. I think it's different than that. I'm trying to think of a good comparison. It's like when, for example, like when WWE likes to tease that, like, say Cena's coming back, and then like, here's a perfect example of it. How Theory right now is teasing this match against Cena without admittedly saying outright, I'm challenging Cena. It's those little, like, I'm gonna throw in those barbs and use your catchphrases to make people think about you again. So that way when you pop up, it's just like, oh, he's back. And it's like, we heard you talking shit. It's building the story of, like, you're using my lines. It's a classic trope. We've seen it in wrestling for years. And I think it has legs.
Okay.
And honestly, at this point, like, it's been long enough that if they bring him back, it would specifically, like, it would be to pop ratings, finish out those last feuds that he started. Maybe he puts a couple people over on the way out.
That doesn't work for me, brother.
Well, he's not Hulk Hogan. That's the one thing I'm gonna say. He's not Hulk Hogan.
That's fair.
And then the only other thing I have on Dynamite, Christian Cage is back, restarting this rivalry with Jungle Boy. The only problem I have is that since Christian Cage was off recovering from the injury, I feel like that feud has, like, gone ice cold, and I
Yeah.
don't care about it anymore.
This might be me being selfish, but like we know that Edge is done this year, right? He's said that he's done.
Well, he hasn't
And
expressly said he's done this year. He's just said he's coming on the up to the end of his
yeah.
career.
And man, give me one more ENC run.
If please.
Like just pop us fucking 90s kids one last time. Give us one last TLC match with Edge and Christian.
Oh, I don't think so. There is no way the two of them are doing a pure TLC match anytime soon. Those guys are.
I'm fantasy booking here, and I mean, fine if I can't get a TLC match.
I mean, fantasy book away. Don't get me wrong.
But if I just give me one, give me one last fucking 5-second pose.
All right. Point of order. If they were to come back, like let's say Christian comes back to WWE for a final run with Edge, they do one last match, like or at least like one last TLC match. Who do they face?
New Day, Usos, Sammy, and KO.
I like all those picks actually. I take that back. I was struggling with it for a moment, and I was like,
yeah, those three other teams can mask a lot of the things that they can't do because they are up there in age.
Absolutely, and like again, like the New Day being historical, the Usos. I mean, the Usos were my first answer because like again, like they're easily the hottest team right now, and I could see them doing a TLC match and putting it in Justice.
Yeah. And even like to take it one step further, there's something beautiful about Edge and Christian going against KO and Sammy and passing on the Canadian tag team down to them.
I like that. I hadn't even thought about that either, but that's a really good point. And especially like now that
we'll get there.
We'll get there. We'll talk about that.
We've got one more day to talk about Thursday. Then we can talk about SmackDown. And
actually, no, we can't talk about that until we get to Monday's notes because that's after Elimination Chamber.
That's true.
Yeah. We also never went back and wrote down our picks, so we'll have to do the math afterwards and figure out who won on Elimination Chamber picks. Because you were right. I should have typed them as we were going, but I was procrastinating and yeah. Oh well, shame on me.
Such is life, my friend.
Such is life. Not a lot of the news on Thursday. A couple of things that did come up. AEW it came out was actually warning talent before Dynamite to stay away from the border. Obviously, a lot of issues with crossing the border. Things have been very volatile down there in South Texas right now. Funny enough, I actually read something on Reddit that said that Hangman, actually, him and another wrestler, he didn't say who, they accidentally crossed the border and almost got detained. Like, they took a wrong turn and almost got detained, and they were like, nope, we don't want no problems. We're going to go back that way.
We're going to go from where we came. You will not see us again, sir.
Yes,
or
sir.
ma'am.
Yeah, I'm going to go exit stage left. Yeah. Alvin Kamara indicted on battery charges stemming from an altercation outside of his hotel during Pro Bowl weekend last year.
We knew it was coming. It's been a long time coming. He should be happy he was able to play this past season. I think he's missing a couple games this year.
Uh-huh. I think the Saints are taking that hit for sure.
Yeah.
And then
and the number one note from Thursday.
Oh boy. I was so shocked. So, as of course you all know, I am a huge vinyl record collector. I was actually going to say this is like my closing bit of news for the week, but we can go ahead and talk about this now. I'm a huge vinyl record collector. This year, Record Store Day 2023 is in April, and one of the releases that has been announced is the first official vinyl release of Macho Man Randy Savage's debut album, Be a Man, from 2003. Oh yeah. Oh my god. And I literally everywhere I've been posting, I've just been like, look, there's a couple, everyone's been complaining that this is going to be a really weak Record Store Day this year. No, I saw that and I'm just like, I'm waiting in line somewhere and I'm getting a fucking copy of that because those things are super limited. I want it. Like, this is not a want, this is a need.
I am excited for you because I know how you are about vinyl. I was there when the vinyl collection started.
You were very much there.
I
during the
was there.
very first
I was there when the
purchases.
vinyl collection was a tenth of what you have now.
Yeah,
And
like
like I know how you are about vinyls. I know how we are about wrestling,
mhm.
and like I'm excited for
Like
you. And
the minute I saw that, like I'm sitting here going scrolling through the list, and I'm just like, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. That one's okay. Oh, what? And I'm just like, I was like, all right, nope, you got me this year. You got me. I'll go stand out overnight for that one, gladly. Oh,
I was gonna tell you this in private, but I think I'll let you know on the stream. I have done a couple efforts myself to see if I can find this record down here.
well, no. So that's the thing is that it is does not exist yet. It will come out in April, and it's one of those things like literally like I messaged my guy at the shop that I usually go to, um, near my old apartment, and I told him I was just like, look, if you because he put up a post on Facebook and he's like, hey, the lists are out. Let me know if you see anything that you want me to special order. And I was just like, look, that right there is not a want. It is a need. If you can get a copy of that, I will love you forever. So we'll see if I get the hookup. If
Fingers
not,
crossed.
I have a feeling those will at least get some resale value
Yeah,
on the aftermarket. But
I agree.
at least they exist now, and I don't think they're going to command too high of a price because it's going to be more niche than anything.
Correct. I'd agree with that.
Niche record store day releases like that tend to usually float in the $50 to $100 range after they release. So it's not going to be impossible to find. It'll be relatively affordable. I'd be luckier if I can get the first purchase on it and not
Yeah.
have to go through resale. Um, that's
So
all we
that
really have
moves
for
us.
Thursday. Again, light day for Thursday.
Yep.
Um, we already covered a couple of Friday notes. I missed Rampage because I forgot that they were airing before SmackDown last week. I completely like I remember seeing like the commercials and everything, and I just blanked on it. I literally like as soon as SmackDown was over, I flipped over to to TNT, and I'm like, all right, Rampage. Oh shit,
Oh.
it's not on. I forget
Oh.
it was some movie. I can't remember what movie it was, but I just remember. So I was like, wait a minute, this isn't
Knowing
Rampage.
TNT, it was probably Shawshank Redemption.
No, it was definitely something newer than that. It was like
Oh,
2000s,
okay.
but it was definitely like along those lines. I remember that. It's definitely some
Gotcha.
kind of like action drama type deal. Um, the big news from Friday afternoon though was the beef between Tony Khan and Ariel Helwani on Twitter. My God, did you catch any of that?
Yeah, of course I did. Tony, Tony
Tony
Khan is
Khan,
a big baby.
Tony Khan is very quickly losing face.
He's
Very quickly, and he calls out Ariel Helwani for being biased and is like so much for unbiased journalism. You're about as biased as Tony Schiavone. First off, why are you taking shots at Schiavone? Schiavone's an
right.
all-time legend. Um, Second off, you're getting mad because Helwani is promoting a wrestling show as a wrestling interviewer, a world-renowned all combat sports journalist. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of Ariel Helwani, but I will give the man his due.
Yeah.
He is a very like talented individual. He's very good at his job. And yeah, he does because he's on such a big platform. He does get noticed a lot more by the WWE, and he's not
Yeah.
afraid if they call him to be like, "Yeah, I'll come do that," especially when it's in his hometown of Montreal.
Right. And I loved that at the Elimination Chamber they said Ariel unbiased journalist Ariel Hawani in the crowd. Like,
Shots fired left and right during this entire thing.
yeah.
So if you didn't see before it got deleted, the tweet that Helwani put out, like he quoted it, and he's like, "Oh, thanks for watching, friend. Make sure
Yeah.
you tune in. Oh, and don't listen to the snowman, Tony. I think you're great, no matter what he says."
Mhm.
First off, the fact that he's calling him the snowman,
What is that a reference? Is it what I think it is?
it's totally a reference to what you think it is.
Okay.
Because it's like one of the dirty secrets that nobody's really talking about is that apparently there's a
But it's
little
so evident if you have eyes.
so evident.
Like,
Oh my God. It's so obvious. I'm sorry, but like I've worked with substance abuse patients before, and you can definitely tell what's going on.
Oh, yeah, I have
When
my
you have
own
the money
background.
for it, I mean,
I have my own background in that area as well, and
we
yeah,
ain't we
dude,
ain't
like
got to talk about that. We ain't got to talk about that.
Tony
Twitter,
Khan
the internet
is
does not need to know about the shenanigans from your past days.
oh,
Um,
they do not who I am anymore.
we're good boys now. We just make
Yeah,
podcasts. We just tell jokes and make podcasts on the internet now.
yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah,
actually like legitimately true compared
right.
to
That's
a
all we're
decade
doing.
ago.
Um,
Compared to a decade ago. But anyway,
yeah.
but
So,
okay, so I was wondering. I was like, I'm fairly certain that this is a
oh
reference to what
yeah,
I
no,
think it is.
that's a nickname that's been popping up ever since. Like, I feel like Hell. It's been floating around before, but Helwani's definitely popularized it. Everyone's definitely talking about. Oh yeah, no, he's the snowman. Everyone just talks about. Yeah, no, he's just that man's just in a drug fueled haze.
Hmm.
And then like one of the other best ones was somebody sent him like he was doing one of those like ask me anything kind of things while he was doing like backstage work like getting ready for Elimination Chamber, and somebody asks is like, well, what would your walkout music be? And he's just like, oh, that's easy, Snow's Informer, duh. And I'm just like, bruh,
Great, great,
great
love
answer,
that, love
great.
that.
Helwani has made a fan out of me this weekend.
Yeah,
Like I've flipped on Helwani. I'm a Helwani fan again.
nice.
Speaking of which, let's go into the SmackDown notes because that
SmackDown.
Montreal crowd was white hot.
I
Both
all weekend.
both
Yeah.
SmackDown and the Chamber, that crowd was on another level. That
Yep.
was some like that was some Attitude Era level cheering that we were seeing there.
Hmm.
They were saying it was the largest gate in Montreal history, especially for the I forget the name of the center, like the arena that they were at, but like they said that was like an all time gate. Um,
Yeah,
for
that crowd was that crowd made Elimination Chamber even better.
I love how all of the people like I was saying the same thing at the same time, but everyone else, like all the other journalists, were saying the same thing. The best comparison to what we were seeing was Mankind in '99, and
I'll wait. I'll remind when we get to Elimination Chamber. Remind me about Mankind because I got something to touch on about that.
all right, we'll get to that. Other notes that I had, we had a hit row performance get interrupted by Bray and Uncle Howdy just wiping the floor, just coming in, wiping the floor with hit row to end whatever terrible rap. Like it was obviously a designed bad rap segment, and they come
Hmm.
in, and that's a good way, especially after them being off of TV for the past few weeks. That's a good way to get Bray's heat back.
Yeah,
And then he just comes out hot as all hell and calls out the winner of Brock and Bobby.
yeah. I gotta be honest, man. This
Like
Bray stuff ain't working for me.
I was sold until that, and then when we get into the elimination chamber, I'll tell you why it was immediately ruined, as we
Yeah,
already know.
yeah.
I thought that was a good opportunity to get his heat back, and they ruined it.
I mean, we've said it before on this podcast, man. Like this might be the end of Bray Wyatt.
I think this is his last chance.
Yeah,
This is his last chance to make something happen. Otherwise, he's Impact bound.
yeah.
Like he's not even AEW bound. He'll be Impact bound. Honestly, I think Impact would be the best fit for him. They just won't pay him
Yeah,
what he wants.
correct. Yep. Yep.
Couple other notes. We had Ray backstage with Santos Escobar trading masks. That's a
Huge sign
huge
of
thing.
respect.
That's a huge sign of respect because
Hmm.
one. It's starting to position Santos. It's starting to position all of Legato as a little bit of baby faces now.
Yeah,
I would be okay with a Legato babyface run. I
absolutely.
love Legato.
And not only, I feel like Lucha Libre is just geared towards baby faces because how do you not cheer somebody that does flips and dives and all that
Uh,
goes with Lucha Libre?
that's what a lot of people were saying about Legato being a heel faction from the very beginning. Was how are they going to do that? And they really made it work. So
Yeah.
it works.
Yep.
And honestly, I would be very happy to see them go face and really start tearing things apart. I think they would be a damn good three-piece. Um,
Hmm.
just I mean, some of the wars they've already put on with some of the other teams around the WWE right now are just been they've put on great matches with the New Day. They've put on great matches with Imperium.
Yeah.
There's everybody they're great hands and they always put on a good match. You can always trust them to do a great job. Where do you go wrong? And like
I agree.
yeah, like I've been following Joaquin Wild since he was still Zima Ion in
Okay.
Impact years ago. And even then, he was showing like flashes of brilliance, and then just watching his character develop over the years. I remember when he came into NXT, and they're gonna strip him away of all the neon lights and everything, away from being DJZ, and doing all this kind of stuff, and they're gonna make him just like a henchman in this group. And I was just like, how are you gonna do that to one of the most talented guys that you
Right.
had? And then he just took everything and he ran with it.
Yep.
So good on him.
Yep.
Legato
I
has been
agree.
a hit, and I think they are a prime example of modern NXT still putting out some really good hitters.
Hmm.
Um, Viking Raiders versus Banger Bros was a great match.
Yeah.
There was a lot of these matches. Like there was a lot of like great matches. Like again, like the Gunter Madcap Moss match, also really good. Madcap Moss
So what?
still has one of the best spine busters in the wrestling industry right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. I thought he was
Hmm.
going for an overhead on Gunter when he did that, and then he made Gunter look like he was half his size.
Yep. Yep.
It was beautiful. Um, speaking of
And I like that. I like that Madcap is still getting used. I was
yes,
worried that when they broke him away from Corbin, that he would fall to the wayside.
well, and I think he just needs to really figure out his character a little bit more. Like,
Yeah.
he was one of those people that sped through NXT. He didn't really have a lot of development in NXT character wise. When he was down there, he was still teaming with Tino Sabatelli, who of
Hmm.
course is not even. I don't even think he's wrestling. If he no, I think he's AEW now.
Yeah. I
But
forgot about him and Tino.
yeah, him and Tina were a tag team for a long time in NXT, and then
Yeah.
they split them up, and they were when Sabatelli got released,
Hmm.
and then he maybe spent like 2 months as a solo act and got called up to just be like filler, and everyone was just like, "What are they doing with this guy?" But it's because he's got so much love backstage, and
Yeah.
honestly, somebody that's like he comes off to me like Corbin does. He doesn't jump off the page, but he knows his role. He plays his role
It does
well,
it well.
and
Yep.
he understands that he's in the beginning of his career, and he doesn't need to do anything too crazy because he's not really positioned to be the crazy one right now.
Yeah.
Give him a
I
couple
agree with
years,
that.
let him get a little bit more years under his belt, and then like what along that time period, you start building rivalries, creating more character. I'd say 5 years, within the next 5 years, and that's being very generous. He will have a mid card championship.
I think within 3. But yeah.
I'd say within 3. I think it's a safe bet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would
I
say within
agree.
3 years, Riddick Moss has a mid card title,
I
at least one run.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Um, and the only other note, well, two notes. One, the fact that they brought back Worlds Apart for Sammy, and they did it on Friday night. He had this entire speech, his entire like closing promo scripted out, but that crowd was just loud as all hell. Cheered for
Yeah.
what was it, like 5-6 minutes straight, and
Yeah.
at that point he's just like, I'm just gonna let it go. And then
You could tell he was soaking it in.
and then it got to the point where he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna keep it short and sweet. And he at Montreal, it's not gonna be Roman versus Sammy. It's gonna be Roman versus Sammy in the entire city of Montreal. He kept it short, sweet, dropped the mic, walk out, let the crowd cheer him out, and he carried that momentum into Saturday night.
Big time.
The only other note I have from Friday night, we need more Carmella on commentary. Holy shit. That was amazing. She comes in
Yeah.
on commentary for a match between, what was it, Asuka and Liv, I believe it was.
I think so. That sounds right.
Yeah, and she was on maybe it's her and Graves being married to each other. Maybe Graves is giving her
Chemistry.
some lessons or whatever. But Mella's always been good on the mic, but
Yeah,
she was
yeah.
on another level on commentary.
Mella's money.
I think Mela is really like said this comeback of hers has been really strong so far.
Yeah,
Like we're only about a month like a couple weeks in, but this has been a very strong return to form for her.
I agree. And it I could see her winning the women's championship, but it just sucks that she's come in when Rhea's so hot and Asuka's so hot.
Oh yeah, there's she's gonna be coming into a very stacked division. I see Carmelo getting so when you have and this is another trope that you see when you have a very dominant champion. One of the best ways to get the belt off of that champion is to get a good chicken shit heel to pull some heel tactics
Yeah.
and get the belt and like get the belt. So it's like oh it's an illegitimate, but that's how you get the belt off of. That's how you keep the heat on your hot baby face that is like, no, they deserve to be the hitter that they are.
Yeah.
Whereas Carmella just comes in and pulls heel tactics to get the belt and then uses heel tactics to keep it. A great, the last, like, the first thing that comes to my mind right now when I think of a good example for that, when Enzo took the Cruiserweight title off of Neville a couple years ago.
Or or
Another good example.
when the Miz had his 7-day run.
Also a great example when he cashed in.
Yep.
When he cashed in on Drew after the Elimination Chamber and it was after Bobby Lashley attacking him and everything. Yeah, that's another great example. That's how you keep a strong babyface and then give the title to a smarmy heel. It's
Yep.
perfect.
I
Also,
agree.
we need to know more about Jamie Noble's pet raccoon. I need to know more. I need to know more.
Google that on your own time, my
Right.
friend.
um.
Which brings us to Saturday.
Oh boy,
And,
Saturday.
we have a couple notes from before we talk about the Chamber
Yeah.
premium live event.
Mhm.
And the big one, well, one of the big ones. We'll go to. I'll go to NFL first, and then
Yeah,
we'll go.
let's go and knock that one out. That one's staring at me in the face too.
So there's reports out there that Jalen Hurts and the Eagles are working on a new contract. Reports are saying up to 50 mil a year and possibly 200 mil overall.
50 mil a year for 4 years. I mean, right now where he's at, that's pretty much the going rate.
I mean, look, like,
It's hard to argue against that.
it is, and I hate saying nice things about the Eagles, but Jalen Hurts is that dude.
He proved
Yeah,
it.
like
He very much
to
proved
be
it this year.
completely honest, with you, dude, he almost could have won Super Bowl MVP being on the losing team.
Oh no, there were a lot of people saying that he still should have gotten it, regardless of the fact that he lost.
Because if Jalen Hurts isn't in that game, the Eagles get blown out.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I don't want Jalen Hurts staying in the same division as my beloved Cowboys, but I don't see how Philly can let him walk.
When Jalen Hurts is responsible for 4 of your 5 touchdowns in the Super Bowl,
You don't let that quarterback leave.
not at all. No way.
And I mean, yeah, look, 50 mil to 4 years, 50 mil for 4 years. You know, right when he's hitting his peak, like I think that's a solid decision.
Yep.
And I think Philly would be dumb to not pay this man what he is worth.
Absolutely. Pay the man. It's really the best way to put it. Pay the man.
Yeah. Because the last thing Philly wants is what we have going on in Baltimore with Lamar.
Exactly. You
That's
do
the last
not
thing
want a
Philly
repeat
wants
of that. Yeah, that's really the best way. And that's actually all our only news for the NFL on Saturday. It was a very wrestling heavy day. News comes out, Vince's asking price for the WWE. So of course we all know Vince came back and he's supposed to be facilitating the sale. He's asking for $9 billion for the sale of WWE. Right now, I think the Wall Street Journal it was the Wall Street Journal that did the appraisal, is appraising them at $6.5 billion.
It's a big jump.
It is a big jump. I think it's worth it. I think it's a brave call. I think it's a brave call, but Vince, we all want to sit here and look at this immediately and be like, this is a bad idea. Vince is asking for way too much. But at the same time, this is his creative property that is literally like is unprecedented. You can't really put a value on anything like that because of the fact that there's been nothing like it before in history. This is gonna be historic regardless. Yes, it's valued at 6.5, but we're coming into another major wrestling boom, and the fact that it is one of the most hotly contested IPs in in not just the nation, in the world.
The world.
And the fact, and like this is the big the big key factor right now. One of the biggest things when it comes to television rights is live entertainment, which is something that the WWE is very unique in offering, especially at the scale that they have it. Sports makes the majority of live viewership for a reason, because of the fact that it's live. You have to be there to see it. That's always been like, I've said in years past, that's the only reason I still had cable was because of the fact that like I wanted to be able to DVR in case something happens that inevitably gets edited out in the future episodes. Because that always happens. Something happens that's somebody does something out of pocket, and the next thing you know, it's just like we have to remove that forever.
Yeah, and like I literally had this exact conversation with my roommate Saturday. I was like, "Look, man, like the only reason I want cable is sports and wrestling."
Yeah, but it's the only reason to have cable these days, unless you're watching, unless you're that obsessed about 90 Day Fiance. Like, come on.
And you also have to remember like what comes with buying the WWE.
Exactly.
Like that umbrella of properties, WCW's library, ECW's library, NXT's library, every Raw, every SmackDown, every pay-per-view, like all the documentaries, because let's not forget, WWE puts out fantastic
amazing documentaries. Their documentaries are untouched. They are on par with ESPN's 30 for 30s.
I agree.
On par.
I got chills, dude, because like I agree.
I got chills for saying that too. Yeah.
The way that they produce their documentaries and the way they present them, whenever I travel, whenever I go back home or whenever I go up north and I'm on a plane, I always go to Peacock and I always download a WWE documentary.
It's worth it. Always worth it.
Absolutely.
And you said it too. It's not just the wrestling. It's all the documentaries, all the side shows. Your Total Divas, your Ms. and Mrs. All the other shows that are going along the side with that. You've got all the deals that they have with Hulu. You've got all the sponsorship deals with everyone and their mother. Like toys. Oh God, the toys. That's
trading cards.
Everything. And the fact that there are so many other different areas that you can still turn around and apply that to. Honestly, I think, yes, it's ambitious to ask for so much more, but in reality, if I'm looking at it as a like where it goes if somebody buys that, I like it. One, it pushes away potential suitors that would not be as serious about it. Great example of this, a lot of people were saying Endeavor was going to be in the run, but that would have nearly bankrupted Endeavor to buy the WWE at face value. If you're pushing the price tag up to $9 million, you're taking your less serious investors, your people like your Endeavors, your Tony Khans trying to come in and monopolize. You're taking those people and getting them out of the way. And you're leaving it only to those big blockbuster trade deals that they've been talking about they would rather have, whether it be the Saudi fund or Comcast or Disney. Disney. Again, we've been saying for years the Disneyfication of the WWE. Like the whole idea of them going family-friendly, PG content, making everything like they've always been catered around like they've appealing to children because it's essentially a children's show at that point because it's family entertainment. Disney, and this is a lot of the other argument behind it too, is that Disney bought Lucasfilm and like all the rights to bought all the rights to Star Wars for $4 billion. They bought all the rights to Marvel for $4 billion, and that's kind of like where everyone's using that as like the benchmark. Right. But I think about the argument, like when somebody made the argument about Marvel selling for $4 billion. Think about the state that Marvel was in when Disney bought Marvel. Think what Disney has done to Marvel since then.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
Marvel is the multi-trillion-dollar empire it is right now because of what Disney did to save them.
Yeah.
When Fox had those rights 20 years ago and weren't doing anything with it, Marvel was very much being run down left and right and crazy. Everything was DC. Everything was Batman this, Superman that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And if y'all ain't picked up on it yet, I am very much Team Marvel over Team DC.
Same.
But it's just, and again, going into those video packages, that also brings into the fact that we had an amazing video package from Ariel Helwani.
Yeah.
Talking about the history of Montreal wrestling. And it
Yeah.
really, like, it put that stamp on, I'm not being biased to the WWE. I am being biased to the history of Montreal wrestling. And you saw that from, like, everywhere, from GSP being in the building to Beth Phoenix's Luna Vachon face paint.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of
There's a lot.
history in Montreal wrestling. And
I agree.
that crowd being as hot as it was, just amazing.
Yeah, I agree. Completely agree.
Women's chamber match. Asuka gets the win. Correct call.
Both of us.
Yeah. That was just the correct call. I'm pretty sure we both took Asuka on that. We're gonna have to go back and check all the rest of the prop bets that we made. But great showing out of everybody though. I think they all did a great job.
One thing that I really liked about both Elimination Chamber matches is they protected everyone that got eliminated.
Exactly.
Like, Liv being taken out by 2 submissions at one time, like, that makes Liv look strong. It does not make her look dumb.
You know, I saw people complaining during post-show, like, interviews and stuff. Like, or post-show, like, recaps. People were actively in chats complaining that they made Liv weak by going out so early. Bitch, hell no! She was getting submitted by 2 different people at the same time and didn't tap.
By 2 former women's champions at that.
That is not getting put down. No.
No.
Hell no. That is Liv getting all the love in the world. And it's really pushing, like, her psychotic character now.
Yep. And I think that, I mean, because, like, look, they tried it a bit with the Ronda thing, right? When Ronda had her in the submission move and she was smiling and, like, her eyelash was falling off.
Exactly. Same thing.
And that, it worked for Stone Cold.
100%.
When he refused to tap. And when what was that, Mania 13? 14?
The double turn.
Yeah, and I think they did a good job of protecting everybody in those matches. And like, we'll get to the men's match in a little bit, but I thought that was an incredible chamber match, perfectly paced. Starting with Liv and Natalya was a smart move.
Yep.
Letting Natalya get out there and be, you know, the hometown hero and all that, and
absolutely,
like that crowd popped for her
sharpshooter.
Thank you, God. I was blanking on the name.
Yeah.
They popped
I was gonna say that too. Like, they popped real loud for that because, of course, they had to keep mentioning the Montreal Screwjob too. So of course, when you see a Hart family member putting in a sharpshooter in Montreal, that's gonna get a pop.
When so I was watching the Elimination Chamber with my other roommate, who he watched back in the day, like he was referencing WCW stuff, right? So
yeah.
But I was watching not with my one roommate who's a Saints fan, and he's watched quite a few of these with me. It's another roommate, and this was the first time he's watched wrestling with me, and he's like, "What happened in Montreal in 1997?" And I was like, "Oh man!" I was like, "The Montreal Screwjob." He was like, "Oh my God!" Like, and you know, he was getting in as somebody who he does not watch wrestling. He is not a wrestling fan. He was asking me questions and very much engaged throughout the entire show. And he fell in love with Asuka. He was like, "She's incredible," and I was like, "She's 40," and he was like, "You're lying." He didn't believe me.
And yet, at the same time, Murder Clown's gonna murder clown. Well deserved win.
This goes back to what we said during our Rumble podcast. Right choice is our obvious choice is the right choice.
Yep. Just as simple as that. I don't really have any memorable spots that I wrote down on that one, unfortunately. Um,
I mean, for me, the most memorable was Liv
Same.
with
That's
the
immediately the first thing
double
that comes to mind.
submission. And then also, we already touched on it a bit, but Carmella had a great showing.
Yes, the
She,
hiding in
and
the
they,
hiding in the
the
hiding in the
pod.
pod, that was beautiful.
Yeah,
And
yeah, and
when
I
Theory
agree.
tried to copy it later, we'll get to that, but that made it even better. Um,
Raquel Rodriguez looked great.
yes, she did.
You know,
Still
and
positioning her to look strong.
yeah,
Honestly, she can afford, because of the fact that she's still so young and still so new. She can afford to take these losses right now. Let her
yep.
take two more years or so to get let other people get in line first. Then let her
Her
take
time will come.
her time will definitely come. She has a long future with this company for sure.
I agree.
Um, I think she's gonna be one of those good hands that and that so because I'm saying that, I want to address something as well because this is something I didn't have in the notes, but it's been something that's been flying around left and right all since this weekend. Um, a lot of the reports, of course, over the past couple weeks were there were conflicting reports saying that Triple H was unhappy with some of the people that have been brought back to the WWE, and those rumors were basically shot down this weekend, and they basically said it was made like blatantly aware to every person that came back that the number one focus was rebuilding like roster depth. So,
Yeah,
and this is my argument again, like when we were talking about Johnny Gargano having just kind of fucking around the past couple weeks, or since he got his call up again. It's just because it's like they just want him to be depth on the roster. Let
yeah.
people get attuned to him as they naturally get exposure to them. Let them
That's
build organic heat that way.
yeah.
Don't try and
That's
force them
the
down our throats to where they disappear out of the limelight after 6 weeks, like they were happening in the Vince eras, or
yeah.
what we kind of see happening with the AEW roster right now.
Mm. And like that's part of the problem is a lot of people expected Johnny Gargano to come back and have an immediate title feud with Ciampa and it be Black and Gold NXT again.
No,
Where's
that's
Ciampa?
what
Where's Ciampa?
injured his knee.
Oh, okay,
Remember?
okay.
Yeah, he'll be
Yeah,
back
yeah, that's
soon.
right.
He'll be back soon.
That's right.
Um,
But no, like a lot of people expected okay, Triple H is in charge. He's bringing back Gargano. He's going to be wrestling Roman for the title.
hell
Like,
no,
no, dude, like
no.
that's not how that shit works.
Johnny is probably a solid. I think when Champa comes back, they will go back to tagging together, and we get DIY back, and maybe we get a tag team championship run out of them after within the next 2 years. Maybe.
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I can see that happening, especially because we're in the process of once those belts are off of the Usos, those will probably get split too. They're really building tag roster depth in
yeah.
on Raw especially, so they will be able to afford to split that roster up, and I think Ciampa and Gargano could have a great tag run. I think it's the right time for them to just do the way because that was a great way to get organic heat behind both of them, and just let the crowd fall in love with them for being them. Ciampa's been floundering since his call up too. He needs
Yeah.
something new. So I'm just
Correct.
saying, it makes
Correct.
sense.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, and to touch on that as well, we might as well just go ahead and talk about the men's chamber right now as well while we're talking about chamber matches because
All right.
we keep talking about it and we keep mentioning the things that like are coherent. I mean, or like cohesive between the two. Talking about how you get a good opportunity for every person to shine, even if they got eliminated early. Bronson Reed, first one out, still put on a hell of a showing. Took a beautiful sequence to get him out.
Oh, 6 super kicks, a DDT, a stomp, and a splash.
It's just beautiful. They all everyone it was all so perfectly timed too, and the fact that it took that many people to take one big man down and that be the first elimination was definitely the best way to book that. Granted, I do remember saying that Bronson was gonna have the most eliminations, but I mean, if he's the first one out, but they did it right. They did it. They
Yeah,
did it
I
so
agree.
right. Johnny doing that Hurricanrana off the top of the pod to Seth.
Beautiful, beautiful.
I hope Johnny.
My
Everyone's saying Johnny's okay. I hope he heals up quick. But my God, that
my
spot.
roommate popped big for that. He was like, "No fucking way!"
I
that was
couldn't
big
even
for
see
me.
where he got injured. You could just tell he got injured on that. You could
Yeah.
definitely tell he hit his head some way that he shouldn't have, and it was nasty. But my God, that move looked beautiful. And the quick take, and also early in the match, first off, him and Seth starting the match, perfect. That was beautiful because first off, the two of them got to have like a little face off, baby face off, in a way. So that was great, and like the fact that they were even like they were literally just treating it like we're just two professionals having a good match against one another for the first time in years. I know they've wrestled together before on the Indies.
Yep. And I love that they started off with technical wrestling.
Yes. The spot with Theory hiding in the pod was quite hilarious.
I like Theory.
I like Theory too. I think he's one of those. Again, he's a bright future in the company, and at the same time, he's just young, and he has to take his. Honestly, he's already made his time. He's lucky that he's getting it this early because of Vince and Vince's push, but he's taking it and running with it. I remember seeing videos of him being 20 years old in Evolve and just killing it. So it's good to still see good things happen to good people.
Yep. Another spot that I liked, and I know you liked it, was when Montez went to hit his chop, and he did the salute.
Yes. Yo, why did I forget for so long that Montez was a Marine? Why did I forget that he was one of my brothers?
Yeah.
Why did I forget
You're
that?
gonna have to.
He's done
You're
so
gonna have
good.
to give me. You're gonna have to give me a quick second. I am blocking somebody in.
Go.
I gotta move my car real quick.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'll be right back.
I'll keep the kids entertained.
It's your turn.
It's my turn to keep the kids entertained. How's everybody doing? Hey, y'all want to see Dog? Hey, Dog. Want to say hi to the people? You gonna crawl in the frame? You're not quite in frame. A little bit over here. There you go. Now you're in frame. See, who doesn't like a good dog sighting every now and again? Look at that smile. Like, how can anybody say no? Oh, you want to jump up? You want to jump up? Oh, he wants to get up close and personal with everybody. Hello. Hello, yes. Who doesn't love Dog, right? Who doesn't love Dog around here? Everybody loves Dog around here. Don't worry, we're almost done. We are almost done. We are almost done. This is what happens when you just... the minute I turn and pay attention to him, instantaneously, it's just like, alright, is it time for me now? No. What, I swear, one of these days, we're going to find a way to put Dog... I'm going to find a way to put, like, Dog Cam right here in the bottom corner. What? No. No, sir. Go back down.
I'm back.
Okay. Dog was entertaining everybody.
Nice. My Crystal Lake sign fell.
Hey.
I'll have to figure that out later. So yeah, just to jump back in, when I saw that in your notes, I was like, how did Rich forget that he is
You know,
a Marine?
they don't touch on it so often. Like, they always touch on Lacey Evans' history as a Marine, but they don't really put a lot of, like, history in Montez's time in the Marine Corps as well.
I agree. The other part of that note said too many cross shops.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Trish didn't mention him in the press conference.
You think so?
You steal my gimmick, you son of a bitch. I'm not mentioning
I made note of that. I didn't put it in the notes, but I did notice that. He called out everyone in that chamber match except for Montez.
He backtracked real quick because then he put a tweet out.
Mm-hmm.
he put a tweet out saying, "I forgot to mention in the press conference, but Montez is an absolute superstar," or something along those lines.
Yeah, exactly, because of the fact that, like, let's not forget that he was the one that had to sell for what was inevitably the ending. So he takes a stomp from Seth when he gets eliminated, and it didn't even look that bad. So
No.
he starts selling the injury, like he's knocked out and everything, and I'm like, the hell? This can't be. This has to be an angle. It has to be, and they're trying the hardest to sell it. And I'm just like, I'm trying so hard to figure out where this is going. And then Logan Paul runs in and attacks Seth, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense now.
It was funny watching it with a non-wrestling fan. So a little bit of not spoiler, but just some behind the scenes stuff. I watched reviews, I knew everything about the Elimination Chamber before I watched it, and I did that on purpose because the Elimination Chamber is not one of the big four. So like spoilers, and I kind of had an idea of who was going to do what anyway. But I also figured, I was like, well, you know what? If I know what's coming, I can look at this from a more objective point of view instead of going in and being a fan. And you know what I mean? So like that's why I watched the reviews and read up on it beforehand. So I knew that Logan Paul was coming. But watching it with my non-wrestling friend, he was like, "Oh my God, like is he okay?" He's like, "What?" He's like, "Do you think something went wrong?" And I'm like, I was like, I got to be honest with you, man. Like I know where this is heading. And then when Logan Paul came, he started cracking up because he doesn't know. He doesn't know that Logan Paul has been in. And he was like, "Is he even a real wrestler?" And I was like, "He's actually a really good wrestler." And he was like, "Has he even had any matches?" I'm like, "He had a match for the WWE Championship." And he was like, "No way." And I'm like, "I'm telling you, like, Logan Paul is..." And then I showed him the clip from the Rumble of him and Ricochet. And he was like, "Wow." Like, he's like,
Right.
Logan
It's like,
Paul
it's like, damn. Like, again, like, I remember when Logan Paul first started coming out of the WWE, we were both just like, oh my God, seriously? And since then, he has completely turned the entire universe around on him. And it's all based on his in-ring effort and everything, and like how much effort he puts into it, how good he looks doing it, how much he honestly was made for it. Like he was made for this. He's one of those people you could just look at and you could tell, like, no, like everything about you, the way you got popular and everything, you were made for this business, and it's good to see you like find your calling.
I agree.
And I think this match against Seth is going to be fucking amazing.
I
give
him like 20 minutes.
The two of them are going to burn the house down.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I would not want to be the match following them.
Agreed. And the other good thing about it too, and this is the other thing that everybody keeps talking about, the other side of this is how much is pop culture going to love Seth in the build up to this.
Yeah.
Seth is going to be put in mainstream media left and right. He already was doing, like, this all got built up because, of course, like, all last week he was doing all these different press conferences saying, Logan Paul, fuck Logan Paul, he needs to stay out of our business. He clearly healing it up and building the interest. That's why that's why, like, going into this, they were pretty much saying, like, by Saturday morning, it was already, like, set in stone. We were getting Logan Paul versus Seth Rollins at Mania. And honestly, they're building it so well. And they're building it to a way that I want to see it, and it's going to be interesting. Like, please, give it.
Seth's probably going to lose at Mania 2 years in a row.
You know what, though? He can afford to take that loss.
I agree.
He can. Because what's he doing right now? Just being a character.
Feuding with Logan Paul.
He's being a character. That's all he needs to do. He doesn't need to be in the main event right now because he doesn't have like any reason to. However, when inevitably Cody wins the championship and is defending it, they can come back to that, and the fact that Cody beat Seth 3 times in a row. Say Seth takes the championship off of him. Who knows? That's a ready-built storyline. They've got some things they can do. And honestly, if that's the case, what are you going to have Seth do between now and then? Fuck around.
Right.
Why not?
Right. And I think because Logan Paul, he is green and he is a rookie and all that, having him go against a work rate machine like Seth is the right call.
And I think the two of them will still put on a solid, Give them 20, give them 30 minutes. Hell, if they can go 30, give them 30.
I agree.
I
Because they
and
can
if
both
anything,
go.
they
They
can
can
both.
both
Yeah,
go.
if they can both. Yeah, that's the thing. We know Seth can go for 30. The question is,
Yeah.
can Logan go for 30?
I bet you we could.
I bet you he could too. You
The
give
only
him
thing
30.
is, the only thing is like he went for a while, and well, not a while. He was 29 in the Rumble, but there was bells and whistles to hide him in that when you're in a one-on-one match. But he did fantastic against Roman.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Is the Roman match was beautiful, and let's
Yeah.
not forget the Mania match that he had with Miz.
Yeah,
So like that match, while it wasn't as long, still put on some great showing.
I agree.
So
Yeah.
he's got a lot of like he's positioned well, and so this is again. It's a great use of him. They have done everything right with Logan Paul since he's come into the business, and I have to give him his flowers.
I would not mind seeing a full-time Logan Paul run.
Absolutely, give it. I'm here for it.
Yeah. And so, having said that, one last spot before we get to the winner. One of the things that really popped me, and I know we're kind of going out of order on like the eliminations and
Obviously,
whatnot,
yeah.
but like when Seth and Gargano were on top of the pod, and they both sit there and they look over at each other and they're like, oh, taking a break, and then Seth just chops him.
That
Like,
was great
I
too.
literally laughed out loud at that. I thought it was hilarious.
That was a great spot.
Like,
I have to admit that was pretty funny.
yeah. And again, back to what we said about the women's, everybody being protected. Priest, man, what a fucking monster.
God, yeah,
I'm
monster.
I
win
like
for him.
Judgment Day, but I'm ready for Priest to go solo again.
Bro. I have been dying to see this since I first discovered Punishment Martinez.
Yeah.
I've been dying for it. When
He
I first
is-
saw him, when I first got introduced to him, some 8 years ago, when he was Ring of Honor TV champion, my God, he was putting in the fucking work, and I was just like, I can already tell whenever he makes it to a big name company, if he ever makes it to the WWE, he's gonna do amazing. And sure enough, there's a reason. If you think about it, they've really started positioning Damien to be the head of Judgment Day now. Everyone was starting to look at it as Finn. Priest is just quietly the heater now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
and he
and
great shot.
The fact
That
that,
whole-
like,
again,
he
like,
has the size,
We
the
already
look,
said
and
it, man.
everything.
Both chamber matches were damn good.
And another spot that I have here in the notes that that we hadn't mentioned yet as well. Theory getting that slam on getting a full lift up on Bronson Reed and making it look easy. Like,
Yeah.
let's not discount the fact that that's early Cena status right there. Like,
Yeah.
the way they've been pushing him to be like the next Cena, that is a Cena style spot.
Yeah.
That is an early Cena spot. That's a statement maker, and I think that was a great move.
Yep. And having Theory win, also the right call.
Absolutely. Again,
Also the right call.
he needed to retain. It's for this because nobody else was really positioned. They hadn't really built up anybody else. The only other person that was really built up in any way to take that title from him was Seth,
And they handled that perfectly.
entirely.
So, and then I think, if I'm not mistaken, we knew that Austin Theory was going to do an open U.S. Open Challenge in the press conference.
Yeah, he announced it in the press conference, and then after him, he turned around and put out the Edge during his conference was like, yeah, I'm gonna take him up on that.
So, look, I think that now is like, we all know it's building to Cena, and now
Of
Cena
course.
has, a little bit of spoiler for Monday's notes. Cena's been announced for the March 6th Raw. This is leading towards. I think
Let's not
Theory go.
Let's not
Go
forget
ahead.
also that when Cena was at SmackDown at the end of December, he filmed something for this.
Yeah, they've already right, and I think that look, this is perfect. Let Theory go on a nice, 4 or 5 week run of doing open challenges. He doesn't have a match at Mania, so he just goes out and says, "We're going to do another open challenge at Mania." Cena comes out to answer the call. Theory beats Cena, and then we move forward from there.
I agree. I also, however, like the idea that that's also been getting thrown around right now of um, him going on these 5 weeks as doing like just a run of attacking legends that have
Mhm.
previously held the U.S. championship. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that could also be a good way to do it. Have him face Shelton next week. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
it's a good
Shel-
shout.
Yo, Shelton versus Theory would be a great match.
Actually, yeah, that would be a really good match.
Be a great. I'll take that.
Book it, Trips.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So those are
You can
our
have that one for
chamber.
free.
Those are our chamber match reviews. Unless you got anything else you want to touch on, we can get to some of the other three matches on the card.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get to the other three. Um, we talked about Edge. Let's talk about that real quick.
Okay.
Him and Beth versus Rhea and Finn. Um, good short match. Nothing really too much to talk about.
Except quite a few FTR slash revival shouts in there.
Man, I wouldn't necessarily say quite a few, but that is definitely the notable point.
There's
Other than the
two.
fact that we already mentioned she was in. Was there two? What was the other one?
At least two.
What was the
So they
second one?
did they did the Shatter Machine.
Yeah. So of course, for those that didn't see, they finished. They won with the Shatter Machine.
Hmm.
So
And then they did that spot where Edge and Beth had them both in submissions, and they looked at
oh,
each other
you're
and
right.
they don't you tap?
That's totally a revival spot. That's a revival DIY spot.
Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
forgot about that. Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah,
Hmm.
that's two shouts to the revival.
And Edge and Beth are friends with
Yeah.
the revival.
Well,
Last
it's
year,
widely known that while Edge was training to get back into the ring, he was training with with Dash and Dawson. Well,
yeah,
excuse me, freaking Cash and
Dax.
Dax and Cash. Yeah, their
So
new
let's
names.
also not forget that last year when Edge was feuding with Seth, and Seth did the home invasion thing, he said, "Get up the street to such and such's house," and it's the real life names of Dash. Look at what you did to me.
Look on it.
Of
Yeah,
Dax and
we're
Cash.
already jumping back to their WWE names. We know it's so inevitable.
So there was, and I don't think they got the right winner.
No,
I think Rhea should have pinned Edge.
nah. Nah,
We're
because
building Rhea,
so
man. Like,
I think obviously what they're doing here is they were trying to find a way to build Edge Finn, and we saw that built. We saw at the end of Monday night they built into it by Finn attacking Edge at the end of the show.
mhm.
Um, they're trying to build up to what's being rumored to be Edge versus Finn at in Hell in a Cell at Mania, and if that's the case, please,
Yeah,
I'm
and
here.
I've seen a couple things online of people saying that the Edge and Judgment Day storyline has been going on too long.
It
People
has.
forget that Edge. I disagree, man, because Edge was hurt for a while.
It's still
It's not
like, but that's even more of the point though, because then like the heat was gone because he was gone for so long, and then he comes back and he reignites it, and it's like you're trying too hard to get back on track. That's the same thing I was saying earlier with that Christian Cage Jungle Boy feud. Is like it's been off the burner for too long. I think trying to reheat it is just giving you that bland like preheated taste.
okay.
It's
So,
like eating the leftovers in the microwave. Like, yeah, it tastes good, but it tastes a lot better if it was fresh.
all right. So, what would you rather Edge and Finn be doing for Mania?
Well, no. So like obviously now, like you've already committed to it. But and I've said this a lot now. I've said this a lot over the past couple months. I'm over Edge's return. I'm over it. I think his promos go on too long. I think every single one of his promos, he stalls them out, takes up way too much time, all just to say the same things over and over again about how he's getting old and he still wants another championship and he doesn't know how much longer it takes. And it's just, it's the same thing every week and he takes up 4 or 5 minutes to do so. And it's like, Edge, we love you, man, but this is time that could be better spent on other things and other people. I'm sorry. I know there's
When
a
you
lot of Edge fans out there. I'm
yeah, but
sorry if you're
when you put it
disappointed, but
that
that's just where I'm
when you
at.
But when you put it that way, man, like I don't disagree with you.
It's
And
just.
maybe it's because like I got into wrestling a little bit later than you, and like
Mhm.
Edge with the Brood is like my earliest memories of Edge, and like I fucking loved him. So
Yeah.
maybe that's why. But when you put it the way you just did, dude, like I can't disagree with
Like
you.
Edge is very much like, yes, he had his heyday in the Attitude Era, but more than anything, Edge came into his prime during the Ruthless Aggression
Ruthless
era.
aggression, yeah,
Everything
yeah.
up until his first retirement was absolute gold. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think it's wonderful that he's gotten back into the ring. I think it's wonderful that he's still doing things. I just think he's taking up too much of the card for where he's at. I get that, yes, you're a big star, you're a Hall of Famer. It's just at the same time, you have to recognize you're in the twilight of your career and you can't eat up main event time like that if you know that you're kind of like, this is your time to start putting other people over, and you can't be putting people over if you and your wife are downplaying the group that you built. Again, that
Yeah,
they're even still putting off, like, you built the Judgment Day, and like
right.
you're still beating it feels disjointed, and it's just like, I get that it's basically like saying the whole, you're a Hall of Famer so you have to be kept hot, and it's just like, nah.
Yeah,
You can
and
easily write it to where, hey, he's been through the ringer over the years, and it's amazing that he even came back into the ring. But like,
yeah, it is. And that's the story I think that so three things off of that. I think
mm,
that's the story that they should tell for this last after Mania is
mm-hmm.
like, look, it's a miracle that Edge is even back. Let's start getting some dream matches knocked out. Two, I think Beth Phoenix either needs to come back or go away. Pick one.
I
Pick
agree
one.
with that. I actually agree with that. I
And
think she needs to make it. I think that's fair, because you can't sit here and be like, I'm retired, and then be coming back every couple months.
correct. And three, the Grit couple is a stupid name. It worked when they were going against Miz and Maurice. You're not going against Miz and Maurice anymore. It's a dumb name.
There were a couple journalists out there that were even forgetting the Grit Couple was even a name.
Yeah.
And then they were just
Yeah.
like, "Oh, we're the Grit Couple." And I was like, "Why are we bringing this back again?" It was funny when you were
Yeah.
just making a pun on the It Couple, but now it's like,
Right.
couldn't y'all have found something better? Like, come on,
Yeah. So
y'all
I
are both
mean,
Hall of Famers. Come on.
exactly. And look, like again, you and I both love Edge. We've had that conversation 1,000 times. We popped so hard when he came back at the Rumble.
It's just,
We
I'm over it now. It's
Yeah,
been
and again, let him go back to being or let him go be the happy to be here babyface in the twilight of his career, putting over young talent.
mhm.
Like give me Edge versus Montez. Give me Edge versus
Like, at this point, we've seen Edge versus Finn to death.
correct. And yo, a year ago, if we had this podcast a year ago, you and I would have been clamoring for Edge versus Finn.
Exactly, and
It's
we
done.
would have been so excited for it building up and everything. But at this point, it's just like,
It's done.
I
And
can't.
Beth Phoenix either come back as a full time run or go away.
I like the idea of Beth being Rhea's first challenger after she inevitably beats Charlotte.
We've
I
seen it.
like that, because who else are you gonna feed to be her first challenger? And that's another reason why it's okay that Rhea didn't get the pin on Beth or Edge this time around. They just positioned it as Rhea beat the shit out of Beth
Yeah. Yeah,
and
and
took each other out of the match, and they can revisit that now.
I also think so. Like you and I both have agreed that there's a 0% chance that Rhea gets booed going into Mania against Charlotte. So I think that they're gonna have to turn Rhea face between now and Mania.
No way. No
No,
way. Because you would have to turn the entirety of Judgment Day face. And again,
there you go.
you have Rhea coming to SmackDown to face Charlotte, and she's bringing Dom with her.
You have there's an
They're
easy way.
building this as, this is one of those situations where Charlotte is being billed as the face, but the crowd is already turned against her.
I think that there's a way to do it. There's a way to turn Rhea without everybody else, and it's simple yet effective. Rhea gets tired of Dom's shit with the whole ex-con thing and him not being able to pay for their date at Valentine's Day, and Rhea gets tired of Dom's shit, turns on Dom. Dom becomes the cowardly heel and runs away from Rhea. We cheer Rhea for turning on Dom. Rhea's no longer part of Judgment Day because again, I think when inevitably we get this Hell in a Cell Edge versus Finn at Mania, where does Judgment Day go from there?
I agree. No, I take that back. I think Judgment Day still has a lot of legs left in it. There's a lot of like great trios that are like they're building up a lot of good like stables to really face Judgment Day. I would still love to see Judgment Day inevitably get a tag title run. I think they still deserve one. I think once they start shuffling things around, let the Judgment Day be in the mix of that tag division.
We gotta split these belts.
And we gotta do it again. We're so close we can taste it now.
Yeah,
we're so close we can taste it.
So that brings us now. We've only got 2 matches left on the card.
Do we want to get this out of the way?
Obviously, we're gonna save the main event for the last segment of Saturday's notes. So that means we have to talk about Brock versus Bobby.
I don't want to.
Neither do I.
Honestly, nothing here. There was nothing here.
It was a massive, massive, massive letdown.
It was a wet fart in church.
Like, we don't need Brock and Bobby to go for 20 minutes, but we also don't need Brock and Bobby to end with a kick to the dick and a DQ.
And to jump ahead into Monday's notes, they're leading into this with the Hurt Fit business reforming. Or quote unquote, that's what's being rumored. We've got Omos challenging Lesnar to Mania, which is just an absolute I don't want to see. But it's obviously going to build up to Brock and Bobby. And again, like I said the other week, Nostradamus going to strike again. It's going to lead to Bobby, Omos, Shelton, Cedric, and MVP all coming together as one great big Hurt business. And that's what's going to take for Bobby to beat Brock. Again, I don't like it, but they're doing it so that way they can reform the Hurt business.
And you said you were going to touch on this when we got to this match. Why is this a bad thing for Bray?
So, again, all right, first
I know the answer, but for our viewers.
First things first. The only thing that came out of that Brock and Bobby match, the only thing that comes out of that whole thing, my first thought throughout that entire match was, wow, that was a piece of shit. The only thing I want to know is now who does Bray face? Because Bray called out the winner. But technically Bobby wins by DQ. And a lot of people are saying, well, that's part of it, is that Brock kicked Bobby in the dick, so that way Bobby wins, and he has to be the one to deal with Bray Wyatt. And it's like, I can see that, but that's so stupid of a way to do it. Like, you had the prime... I was so sold on Friday night when Bray came out with Howdy and was just like, I'm fucking sick of this shit. Brock, Bobby, whoever wins, I want you. I thought they had the opportunity to turn Bray back into a fucking, like, monster, just, like, insane attack dog. Like, I thought they had the opportunity. By giving them this shit ending to where you can't figure out to do with that, now you've ruined any chance that Bray had to save face.
To be honest with you, man, I don't want Omos versus Brock, and I don't want Bray versus Bobby.
I still want Bray. I want Bray versus Brock. Honestly, give us the Bray Brock we never got.
Yeah, and like, dude, like at this point, like, I don't even know, and I don't even know if I agree with what I'm about to say, but like, give us Brock versus Bobby at Mania the right way. And just pull the fucking trigger and give us Bray versus Uncle Howdy, and let us figure out who the fuck Uncle Howdy is.
That's going tag division. I can see that already. That's going tag. They've tagged together. The way they came out together on SmackDown, those two are a tag team now.
Yeah, it's just.
And we all know it's Bo. We all know it's Bo.
Yeah, but you got to pull that trigger soon, because the longer it goes, the more time we have to speculate on who it could be. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, I think when it turns out to be Bo, we're going to be pissed.
Well, no, I think it's going to be more of a, all right, well, that we already knew that. Now that that's out of the way, can we get this show going? That's what it's going to feel like. But even still, it's like, again, this was your chance to, like, be like, no, you can just have Bray come in and just be like, no, whoever wins this, I'm just going to come out and just, like, attack. And it would have been great. By them not, now it's just like, now who are you going to have them attack? Now it feels weird for him to go after either one.
Yeah.
But if we had just gotten a straight up Bray Brock feud, because that was a feud. We all know how much I love watching old Rumbles. That's like a comfort to me. Like when I just want some background noise, I'll throw on an old Rumble and it'll just let that play in the background. And I forget, I think it was 15 when we had the showdown where Bray should have won the Rumble and got taken out by Brock, and then they were building up the whole Brock Goldberg thing or whatever, or Brock, and that was when they were building no, it was 17 because that was when they built up Bray Randy.
Yeah.
It was 17, and then they had the entirety of the Wyatt family come in, and like after they've been eliminated, after they had eliminated Bray, like after Brock had eliminated all the members of the Wyatt family, they all come back in and they take Bray out. They just all swarm him and jump him.
Yep.
And that was a spot that never got paid off. What's up, Leafy? I see you over here. Hope your stream was good today. Yeah, but like it's just one of those things where it's like we had the opportunity to be like, you can make something out of Bray again by giving a good program with Brock. And I feel like Brock's at a point like Brock would be down for that. Brock Lesnar's got to do something to keep himself in the main event. And
I think that if this was how they were going to end Brock and Bobby, we shouldn't have even done it and just saved it for Mania.
I agree too. Like again, the whole thing feels messy.
The thing is, dude, like I've been looking forward to a proper Brock and Bobby match, and 3 matches in, we haven't gotten one.
No, we haven't. It's always messy, and it's just we want it. We want the fans want it already. Main event. Honestly, we don't really need to say much on that. It was inevitable. Sammy puts on a hell of a show. The crowd is hot. I think they timed it. It was like somebody said 5 minutes and 16 seconds was how long they stood cheering before the match actually started. Before they actually like locked up.
Locked up, yeah.
5 straight minutes of a hot ass Montreal crowd cheering their asses off.
And I loved that Sammy made Roman make the first move.
100%. And it was, I think, one of the big arguments, they kept cutting over to Sammy's wife way too often.
Yeah.
I agree with that. However, him like stopping to kiss her in the middle of the match was a great moment. Good pop for the crowd. Nice and simple.
It was also, I like that Roman was healing it up, being like, I wanted to provide for you.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to help you. I want like that. That's not your normal heel shtick. Like, and Roman played the heel perfectly. Like, heel Roman. I never thought Roman could be this good as a heel.
100%.
And I also think like
we all suspected it. We all clamored for it for years. But my God, now that we're actually having it, he's exceeding all expectations, and that's saying something when the bar is high.
In another timeline, like we did get a John Cena heel turn, and this is everything that John Cena's heel turn could have been.
Absolutely, I think it's a great way to say it. And just the other thing about it too, Sammy just the not saying die, like he's kicking out of everything,
bro. Those
Johnny Gargano's levels, 100%.
You know, you hear a lot of people that review wrestling say like he kicked out at 2.999. Like
he's just, and it's like normally on a match like that you would be mad at so many kickouts, but that crowd being so hot and so many false finishes, we get 2 ref bumps. 2.
Yeah, dude, I knew the outcome. I told you I listened to reviews and read about it before I even watched it. Mm-hmm. But even still, when I was watching the match, I'm like, yo, that was a typo. Sammy's gonna pull this off.
Mm-hmm. Like, you had to feel like there was going to be moments all throughout where it's just like, this could happen. No, this really could happen. And they did a damn good job making you feel like, because like 2 months ago, going into this, we all knew we were building up to this match. And we always knew it was going to be coming. And we always knew that Sammy was going to lose it. But definitely in the way that they built it, they made you believe that there was a chance. And it made a very good chance. It wasn't just like a fleeting chance. It was like a legitimate, wait a minute, Sammy could really do this.
Yeah.
The entire time. And it's honestly, like, you got to give him his flowers. He did amazing. As I called it, we get both Jimmy and Jay.
You did get a point for that.
Mm-hmm. I
that
called
was your
that.
called shot. But I don't think you get the point. Because your specific called shot was Jimmy and Jay get involved.
They both got involved.
Jay did not get involved.
He stood in that ring. He held that chair.
Yeah, but he didn't do anything with it.
It was still part of the storyline.
whatever. But
And it's still
getting
part of
off
the
point,
storyline.
getting
And
off
let's
point,
not
I
forget,
think.
wait, let's not forget that Jay still had to get hit by Sammy. He still took a
All right,
hit
you're
from
right.
Sammy.
Well, that's your homework. Next week, I expect a winner announced on who on
Oh,
our
I'll
picks
have
for
that up while I'm
elimination.
editing, honestly. While I'm
Um,
editing this week's episode, I'll go back and do that.
all right,
Um,
but let's also not forget that Jay not using the chair says more than Jay using the chair.
that's fair.
You know, like I this storyline is so fucking perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know how WWE. This is kind of like the pessimistic side of me. I don't know where WWE goes from when this Bloodline story is over.
There's a lot of places they can go with it,
But
honestly.
it's just it's such good story. It's such good shit.
It's such good shit.
Like he's I'm blown away by everybody.
Well,
And
first
like
things first, he needs a long vacation. He has
deservedly so.
earned a long vacation. Let him
Deservedly
stay
so.
out till like SummerSlam.
Yeah. And then like when Kevin Owens came in and Paul Heyman was like, "Screw him, I love you." Like I want there to be payoff from that. Like I want Roman to address Paul Heyman being like, "What did you say?"
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we're gonna get it.
I think at some point, like, inevitably, we're going to get to a point where Roman casts Heyman away for being the meddler.
Maybe.
Because they're really putting a lot of emphasis lately on how much Heyman is being a meddler right now.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that when we get to Monday's notes for sure.
Yep.
For sure. But yeah, I mean we spent a lot of time on this, and like you said,
Way more than I
great
was
main
expecting,
event.
actually, to be honest. But
Yeah.
it's okay. This is
Yeah.
all great conversation. This is all great, like, concourse.
I agree. Yeah, but great main event. We still also have 2.5 days of notes to get through. So
It's not.
great main
It's like
event.
half. It's like less than a page worth.
Yeah, great main event.
Mm-hmm.
The storytelling is incredible, and the storyline's not over yet.
No, it's far from over. We've got a lot more to go with this. When we
Yep.
get to last night's Raw notes, we'll talk about that. A couple quick notes. So unfortunately, though, because we're watching Elimination Chamber live, I didn't get the opportunity to check anything from Battle in the Valley until headlines were coming out while everything was like after Elimination Chambers. When I start looking at all the notes from Battle in the Valley as it's happening, and first thing I see, of course, we have a new IWGP Women's Champion already.
Mm-hmm.
Money.
Saw it coming. Saw it coming.
Money. Oh, we all saw it coming.
She's come out recently and said, "Whoever has the biggest paycheck is who's going to get my services."
Yeah, pretty much. Honestly, she's at that point where she can afford to do that.
I think
She
might
got
be a
Disney
little-
money. Come on.
I think she might be a little difficult to deal with backstage.
I think so too. But at
I
the
think
same
she's
time,
another one who's got a massive ego.
who in this industry doesn't?
True. True.
And again, when she's out here, she's Casca Reeves at this point. I know you don't watch Star Wars. You've never watched Star Wars, and it means nothing to you. But for the Star Wars faithful, that is huge.
Okay.
Very bigly. Bigly. Also, the inevitable also happened. What's been rumored for a long time.
Good.
Jay White loses the loser leaves New Japan match to Eddie Kingston, which is funny because in all reality, Eddie Kingston is not a contracted New Japan talent.
I think they're both leaving New Japan. I think they're both coming back to the States.
So, no, because again, the whole thing was down in San Jose. They were doing the strong side, the New Japan strong side of the house.
Oh, well, then perfect. They don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, they don't have to go anywhere. He didn't have to go anywhere. That was why they got Eddie Kingston for it. But, like, I think what they said was that if Eddie Kingston lost that match, then he would never have the chance to work another New Japan match ever again. Which I could see that. Because he does still come in and do the odd, like, fill-in match, especially for New Japan Strong. Like, he does a lot of one-offs out there. And Eddie Kingston is a very respected name in the industry as well, so...
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. But what I didn't see coming was David Finlay coming out and attacking Jay White. Now, it's not a Bullet Club leader leaving without them getting attacked by the new leader.
Correct.
And
It's a staple.
Yeah, it's a staple at this point. This is the fourth time it's happened now, and we get David Finlay, and this is strange because there were a lot of people saying that David Finlay was ready to come back to the States, and that he was probably going to sign with AEW or WWE, and then all of a sudden, nope, he's back in New Japan. He's the one that's going around saying, like, I feel like I have unfinished business here. I want to be world champion, and it's like, oh, all right. I've watched David Finlay grow from like the junior division, like matches against Omega when Omega was still in his like young days.
Cutting his teeth.
What's that?
Cutting his teeth.
Yeah, when they were both cutting their teeth. This also gives us the reunion of Finjuice, David Finlay, Juice Robinson, a great tag team in their own right on the Japanese scene. And like they're amazing at the tag team. I've watched some of their stuff. I remember seeing some of their matches in Ring of Honor too when they would come over. Beautiful. They're great showmen. Now it's just different because instead of babyface high flying Finjuice, we get Bullet Club heel Finjuice.
Yeah,
which is an interesting dynamic. I'm interested to see how it goes.
One of the notes from here, the big one that stood out to me. Okada wants to team with Tanahashi and go for tag titles? ?
Yeah. So after the main event, of course, Okada versus Tanahashi for the IWGP Championship. Okada wins. Great match. I got to see a couple of the highlights. And then afterwards, he gets on the mic and he's like, I still have a lot of respect for you, Tana, but I think what I want to do now is go for the tag titles. And I think I kind of want to be a double champion. And I wouldn't want to have anybody else other than you by my side for this. And like, what do you say we put the golden team together? Like what the fans have always been asking for.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a fan service moment.
Give me that.
Yeah, I'm here for it. Kenta beats Fred Rosser for the former Darren Young for the strong openweight champ. So it's like they're
Didn't know Darren Young was over there.
Oh yeah, he's been over there for a couple years.
For him.
Yeah, he was the strong openweight champion. So
millions of dollars, millions.
Yeah, so like he's really like he's been making a really good name for himself in New Japan Strong. He's been a great like veteran hand for a lot of their young lions. He's just done great. So and then after the match, he calls out Punk for being Punk. Also, the fact that Punk is sitting in the stands, and just by sitting in the stands, being a fan, mind you, he's up in the press booth up on the like top, and he's literally got a line of people forming to meet him like it's a fucking Comic-Con, forming in the alley. I saw Righteous Reg put up a picture on Twitter of it, and I'm just like, bro, can y'all not? This is exactly what you're not supposed to do.
Correct. And be a fan.
Yeah, it's like, it's a bad look. I mean, that's really the only notes I had from that. Oh, we're so close to the end now. XFL week 1 going into Sunday. Mm-hmm. So of course we have no NFL to keep us entertained, but we did get the first week of the XFL.
Yeah,
did you catch it?
It was good.
Yeah, I
did.
I caught a little bit. I think we'll have a very good off season for the NFL if we have this kind of football keeping us entertained.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like there's some good games, some good endings to games too.
First things first, I need to address the elephant in the room for the XFL. My DC Defenders and the Beer Snake.
Yeah, look.
How dare you? How dare you take away our Beer Snake?
Batista, give me what I want.
Give me what I want.
And I agree.
Like, that's a tradition. I went to a Defenders game last season.
Did you?
Yeah, I went to one.
Okay.
And I got to see the Beer Snake in person, and it was just stupidly funny. But at the same time, it's no different than any other drunken like sports game like with rowdy fans, and it's just a proof that DC Defender fans, we took to this team. We don't know what it is, but like I remember during the second launch of the XFL, and like they were really hyping up DC, like DC getting the defenders and everything. There was a lot of hype. There's a lot of love for them in this city. So, and I was still working for city government at the time, so like it was. I was seeing it all like firsthand, and it's just it was a great time. Like everyone's just having like it's a drunken, rowdy time. Keep in mind they use Audi Field, which is where DC United plays, another rowdy team, another rowdy fan base. Um, and
I also
also,
love that they're defenders, the exact opposite of the Commanders.
I hadn't even thought about that one. Wow. Okay. That look at you with your big brain moves,
Hey, I'm good for them every now and then.
right? Also, the only other thing on that too, I want to point out, The Rock himself showing love to DC was like he was even like the reporters were asking him, it's like, what made you want to stick with DC and making sure that they still had a team here in the XFL. And The Rock just came out and was just like, I mean, I've always had love for DC. Even my wrestling days, like my early wrestling days when I was still cutting my teeth on the indies, I would come to DC and we would have like other like local indies that would really put on, and like the fans are always here. So I wanted to make sure that we give back to this fan base, and
Love that.
absolutely 100%.
Love that. Still
You
not a DC Defenders fan. Can't do it.
I,
Can't do it.
to each their own. I'd rather be, if I'm going to be a fan of any XFL team, I'm naturally going to choose the home team.
Let me
And
pull up a list of XFL teams and I'll tell you who my favorite is.
the Houston Roughnecks. No, I know who you're going to have. The Seattle Sea Dragons with Ben DiNucci and Josh Gordon.
Hey, yo,
Your boy
Ben
DiNucci.
DiNucci, the DiNucci, he fucking killed it this weekend.
He had a
That
great
that-
game.
he had Patrick Mahomes-esque levels on that toss to Gordon.
Yeah, he did. I think again, it's unfortunate they had to face my defenders and they get the comeback win because again, to Eric King, damn good quarterback. And then what's the guy we have on defense that would put up like 3 interceptions? I can't remember his name right now. I have Google. I can look it up too.
Do. Ooh. I'm gonna have to go with my favorite team.
As he looks through the teams and tries to pick one.
Yeah, I'm torn between the Vegas Vipers or San Antonio.
San Antonio is
The Brahmas.
the Brahmas. That's right.
And I think I'll go with San Antonio because that's a perfect crossover between the Brahma Bull, the great one, the Rock himself, and football. So yeah, I'm gonna be a Brahmas fan. There's my
You're
pick.
calling it now. You're going to be a Brahmas fan. Also, I was thinking of Michael Joseph, the cornerback that had 3 picks. Like one of them was, at least one of them was a pick six.
There was that one guy, I forget his name also. He only had 4 tackles on the game, but all of them were sacks.
Yeah, like
That's
this
pretty cool.
this league is going to have some real interesting like moments to watch for sure.
And another note that you made, but it's incorrect.
Uh-huh.
So will you read your first note under XFL, and I will correct it for you?
Paxton Lynch becomes the first player to get benched in 3 different leagues.
Paxton Lynch is the first player to get benched in 4 leagues: NFL, CFL, XFL, USFL.
I thought it was the AAF.
USFL.
Oh. I didn't know he got benched in CFL too. Oh.
Yep.
I counted 3. I didn't know about CFL. All right. Well, wow. Paxton Lynch setting an even worse record.
Correct. Again, another shout out to the YouTube channel That's Good Sports. He does a really good video on how Paxton Lynch was a bust, and it's hilarious because he's hilarious. But yeah, Paxton Lynch, man, talk about a fall from grace. Someone that size, and I think he's like 6'6", massive size and everything, and then maybe football is not his sport.
What's he doing in the impact zone?
But well, to counteract that, he is a professional football player, so maybe football is his sport.
Impact is very well known for picking up former football players as wrestlers. Let's not forget they've trained that Moose is homegrown after his time with the Falcons, and let's not forget my boy D'Angelo.
Will. Yep.
And
Have some
Adam
respect
Pac-Man
to D'Angelo.
Jones. Also,
Yeah, I forgot about Pac-Man. That's
Pac-Man
right.
also Pac-Man had a long Pac-Man is the reason D'Angelo went to Impact in the first place.
I
Because they
love
tag team
D'Angelo
together.
Williams too. You know why D'Angelo Williams always had pink tips on his dreads?
Breast cancer awareness.
Yep, love that.
Yep.
For his mom.
Yep. All right.
And as a proud mama's boy,
Of
respect.
course. And then, of course, we need to talk about Luis Perez, the quarterback. I forget which team he is.
He tried to kill someone
He damn near killed that sideline ref.
with a football.
I saw that. Like there were highlights of that one too. That's gonna make not top 10 of the week.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, he was scrambling out of the pocket, and I don't know if he was throwing the ball away or he just missed the mark on his receiver that bad, but he pelted the sideline judge right in the head.
Right in the side of the head.
Just
It's something out of a
Yeah, no,
cartoon.
hey man, look, we're football fans, and that does not necessarily just mean have to be the NFL. So I'm here for I'm here for spring football. It
Absolutely.
gives us something, especially with two friends who have a podcast about football and wrestling.
We're going to need to talk about some football. And honestly, this is keeping us very well entertained. So, yes, this is us giving the Pigskins and Pinfalls stamp of approval. The XFL is very much worth watching.
Let's go Brahmas.
Let's go Defenders. Couple of notes also from Sunday. Ric Flair's in an interview, and he mentions that once Batista is inducted into the Hall of Fame, which is, of course, is inevitable. Everyone's saying it's probably going to happen this year. It was supposed to happen 2 years ago, but he didn't want to do it in front of no fans. So, it's fair. Or 3 years ago, rather. Because it was the pandemic year. And he's like, he was supposed to get inducted that year, but because it was no fans, he's like, I'll wait until I can give my speech in front of fans. So we'll get Batista in the Hall of Fame this year. And Ric Flair is basically saying, well, once he's in, then there's bigger justification to put Evolution in. Now, first off, Evolution is guaranteed to have a stable induction at some point. Because that's 4 Hall of Fame caliber. Like, you have 1 Hall of Famer, 1 to-be Hall of Famer, and 2 guaranteed first ballot Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
In Triple H and Randy Orton. The other thing about that, though, Ric Flair gets a 3rd ring.
Hey, it's not his fault. He was part of, it's not his fault. He was part of some legendary fucking. I mean,
I'm
Ric Flair is he's on my Mount Rushmore.
I'm gonna
wrestling.
I'm gonna propose something though, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. If Ric Flair gets a 3rd ring, could he be happy with that, and then be okay with letting Cena break his record?
I don't think so. I think, again, ego. I don't think Ric Flair wants anybody to break his record.
Yeah.
And honestly, if Cena breaks his record, Ric Flair's going to be like, I actually have 20-something championships. You just don't recognize them.
Inevitably, yeah. But again, it's like, it's one of those things, though, that, like, if they can still keep Ric Flair on the record books as having the most Hall of Fame rings for the time being.
Wouldn't.
How you figure? He would be the only... What?
You're missing something here.
How?
Evolution gets in, Triple H gets his 3rd ring.
Triple H doesn't have his solo ring yet.
Oh.
He would only...
Really?
Yeah, he doesn't have his solo ring yet. It's inevitable.
Okay.
It is inevitable, but you have to think, him just announcing last year the retirement from in-ring because of him getting the pacemaker put in. He just officially retired.
That's
so
true.
he hasn't even been in the discussion yet because he's technically considered himself a part-timer.
That's true. You're right.
So,
You're right. Yeah.
That's the only reason Triple H won't be a 3-time ring holder. Won't have a 3rd ring yet. It will be his 2nd when he doesn't have a solo induction yet, but obviously his solo induction will inevitably be worth it.
Correct.
He'll probably be the first person. But, like, again, this comes back to, and I'm sure he would be okay with having Trips tying that. Would Ric Flair be okay going into the record books with 3 rings and allowing his record for the most championships to be broken?
Well, 1, that record's going to get broken eventually.
Obviously.
And 2,
his daughter will break it
don't...
soon.
Huh?
His daughter will break it soon, if she hasn't already.
Yeah. But also, I don't think WWE really cares if they get Ric Flair's approval on breaking that record. If John Cena says he wants to come back for one last final full-time run, and he says part of that is me breaking the record, they're going to say yes.
Oh, absolutely. I think
So,
it's something that they've inevitably been like waiting on too.
I also think that there's quite a few other people that can get 3 rings. I just mentioned Triple H. I think Randy Orton could get it. Randy Orton gets it as Evolution, he gets it solo, and then he gets it with rated RKO if they really wanted to do it.
I don't think they'll do rated RKO's one because inevitably that was 2 solo acts put together as a tag team that they agreed as a temporary union. It wasn't like somebody that naturally like had a years long reign as a tag team. That's when you're looking for a tag team to put in. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for your Hardys, your Usos, your Dudleys, your actual tag teams like that. Not just because they got a nickname when they were 2 all-star singles talents. I agree. It would be worth it. I was worried at first you were going to say Randy would get it with Legacy, but I'm glad you did. I'm glad you didn't say that.
No, that's not Hall of Fame worthy.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that could be a possibility. That's just my thought process. Also from Sunday, as we come down to the end of this, Biff Busick, the former Oney Lorcan, retiring from in-ring action so he can work as a PC coach.
For him.
Good for him as well. Yeah, just a quick note. I think that's great. I was sad when he said when he got released. I always thought that he's been a great hand. He's a great wrestler. I've seen some of his indie work before. He's amazing. And at the same time, he's one of those guys that just got into the business a little too late. Got into the company too late, not into the business. He just got into the company a little bit later in his career, and now he's okay with winding his career down as a coach. And you'll love it. I think he's a great hand. So good on him. That's just a quick note there. I wanted to bring this up because I thought this was hilarious. The other week when we were talking about, do we even know our team's long snappers?
Yeah.
JJ Jansen, long snapper for Carolina, the most veteran tenured player on Carolina, has re-signed for another year. So to answer my own question, JJ Jansen, yes, is still a Panther.
Perfect. Good for you guys.
Long
snapper's one of those positions, man, where you're not really going to know if you have a good one, but you'll damn sure know if you have a bad one.
Hey, you know when he's a good one, too, because he's a former, he's a multi-time Pro Bowler. So, when you have somebody that's been that good for so long, you keep him. And he only ever has to do the one thing, you keep him. Keep him on the books.
I agree. Strongly agree with you there. You're not going to get an argument out of me.
Shit. Let him be our first Hall of Fame long snapper.
If Devin Hester's not getting in, JJ Jansen's not getting in.
Let's go, number 44. Some notes from Raw.
Next jersey?
Say what?
Is that your next jersey?
Maybe. I don't know.
You pull up with a Jansen jersey, man, I swear to God.
Oh my God, that needs to be like some kind of gag gift at some point. 50 subs right now, I'll buy myself a JJ Jansen jersey. Someone do it. And I just pop up and just like, oh shit, I wasn't being serious. So Ottawa wasn't nowhere near as hot as Montreal, but they were pretty hot still regardless. They loved Sammy coming out to start out, and they've started pulling the trigger on KO and Sammy's reuniting. And naturally they go with the KO like, nah, man, I said I was done with you and I meant it. Why don't you go ask your boy Jay?
So, here's something. Do they have enough time to get KO and Sammy back together to go after the tag titles at Mania?
I don't think so. I think something drastic has to happen in order to force their hand. Other than that, I think they're trying to do this with way too slow of a build. That was literally one of my thought processes. Is like, they're really going to try and do this now? Like, they really should just go full force into this at this point so they can just... Like, honestly, at this point, I would have... Especially because you have Jimmy and Jay already... Actually, I don't know, because of the indecisiveness between Jimmy and Jay right now. That actually would throw even more wrenches into everything. I think...
And then also... You could also pull the trigger and be like, all right, Jay, you're wishy-washy, Solo, go defend the titles.
Also, I think that whole thing can... And then, honestly, Solo getting... Sammy wanting to get it in with Jimmy, Kevin wanting to get in with Solo, I could see that kicking things off too. I think there is still potential for this to just all of a sudden get like a tinderbox just thrown at it and the whole thing catch fire. I think that's where it's going to end up. That's the only way they're going to have to do it at this point. It's not going to be a slow build. It's just going to be something's going to pop off and all of a sudden someone's just going to snap.
This is what we have to do.
It has to be. Otherwise, we're building way too slow. Miz teasing a special announcement on Miz TV next week. The
longest time I was like, one, I don't care what your anniversary gift is, and two, I have no idea what it could be. And then I read your note, and I think you're right.
I am going on record as being the first person. I was in Sean Ross. I was in Fightful's post show, and I was the first person to say, I am calling it now. The announcement is a third kid. He announced the last two on the air during a Miz TV segments. He's going to do it this one. Plus the way the two of them were being all lovey-dovey and oh my gosh and oh, I'm so happy. He's doing it the same way he did the other ones. It is picturesque. It's written from the same cloth at this point. I'm calling it now. If it's not a third kid, I will eat my hat, as the British guys say. Yeah, I'm calling it now. That is my called shot of the week. This is my Nostradamus moment. Next week they announce a third child.
I couldn't figure out what I thought it was, and then I read your note, and I'm like, yo, it's got to be a third child.
It's got to be. It's got. I am hedging my bets on that one right now.
I mean, I don't disagree.
Seth versus Miz. On that note, Miz goes out and gets the shit kicked out of him from an angry Seth.
Loved it.
Stomp after stomp after stomp. The ref tells Seth, don't do it again. He does it. We get referee stoppage.
I love it. I think it helps create the illusion that wrestling is real. We know it's not, obviously. Well, we know. Wrestling is real.
When was the last time you saw a referee stoppage in WWE? We see them quite often in AEW, but when was the last time you saw one in WWE? And for it to come off of the stomp, something that's been so well protected.
Last time there was a referee stoppage also involved Seth Rollins.
Exactly. That's the last time I can think of, and that was a very shitty one. That should have never happened.
On the Cell 2019. Trash.
But this one is a wonderful stoppage.
Yeah. It was.
I love this.
I mean, I love it, like, showing Seth with that aggressive side. He should be pissed off. Logan absolutely cost him the match at Elimination Chamber.
100%.
Miz wants to be Miz and run his mouth. Fucking, all right, you're going to get what you asked for.
Exactly. I love it. 100% here for it. We have... so I have that. Ding Dong Hello with Bailey. Originally...
Great.
What?
It was great.
Yeah, it was great. It was okay. It wasn't the best.
I love the part where she was like, "Use the door, you idiot."
Okay, that part is all like. Let's be real. When they're improvising shit like that, there's nobody better than Bailey. Bailey is one of the best. And because Bailey, here's the thing, Bailey is so prone to like slip ups on accident, just like minor like that time she said Dakota Sky, and she's like, "You shut up, you idiots! You made me mess up my teammates' names." She's so good at that.
Quick on her feet.
Do what?
She's quick on her feet. Like when it comes to thinking of shit.
Absolutely. But it leads to Becky and Lita being the team that comes out to challenge them. Now, all the rumors were going around that it's going to be Trish. The rumor mill have been circling around, and there's all sorts of stuff that's basically saying like it's been touch and go. People are still trying to find out the answers of why. Last time I checked, I didn't see if there was an answer yet on why that was canceled last minute. But Trish was in the building.
Yeah,
she was in the building last night. So
I think so. This might be an unpopular opinion, but it kind of goes back to how I feel about Beth Phoenix. Lita and Trish either come back or go away. Having said that, I care way more about Lita and Trish than I do about Beth Phoenix. I also think that this is building towards a trios match at Mania. Becky, Trish, Lita versus Damage Control.
I agree as well. Now, the only downside I have to that, though, is I still believe, and it could still happen. I still believe that this is also still building up to um, potentially Io and Dakota still facing off against Ronda and Shayna for those tag belts. It all depends on how quickly they build up Ronda and Shayna, because that still seems like something that they would want to put in a Mania match.
Yeah.
I also could see Ronda and Shayna getting put, like, because they still want to build them up to be monsters. Yes, they are monsters, but they haven't been built as a team to be monsters yet. They still do need to like build that up a little bit and give them some credibility as a team. And
Think we
like
do that at
show
SummerSlam?
why they. Yeah, I think that would be a great SummerSlam match. I think
Yeah.
for right now, maybe put the two of them maybe in like the women's battle royal if it comes back, and just have them be two dominant heels.
And when was the last time we had a trios match at Mania? Never.
Oh, we've definitely had trios matches. I can name trios matches with females in them that have been like divas that have been trash. So it would be a good
Okay.
opportunity for Trish and at the same time, it's a good opportunity for Trish and Lita to get their payday, as well as like
Showcasing women's wrestling.
yeah, with legends at WrestleMania against three of the best young female stars you have in the company.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Hoss fight incoming because as we saw, we had Bronson Reed and Chad Gable sitting here having said Bronson Reed just going around backstage and picking fights with people. I love it.
Love it.
And they have a face off. Bronson has like makes a statement against Chad Gable before their match, calling him out because they're doing they're like working up the whole maximum male models angle. And Bronson gets in Chad's face, and then we get a Bronson and Otis stare off. And I want it. That's a
Me
Hoss
too.
match I want to see.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I'm
agree.
not gonna lie, that's something I want to see.
Yep. Two very athletic big men going at it. Absolutely.
I think that would be an amazing match to watch. And it honestly, Otis is the right person to feed the Bronson to make him seem like the monster that he is. And
Yep.
Otis is the kind of person that can do that squash at the right way.
And he can take the L. It doesn't really hurt him because of this
Yeah.
this
can-
alliance he's had with Gable. Like, yeah, a loss to Otis doesn't
And
really hurt him.
and like he's essentially becoming a comedy character again. He's getting ready to do another comedy segment. He can afford to take that L. It makes sense. Everything makes sense all around. Yeah, that's really the only notes. I mean, of course, like there's other stuff that happened. Edge facing Theory for the title for the U.S. title, loses as expected. Finn comes out and attacks afterwards. A couple other great matches. Again, there was nothing really like it at this point. I was starting to get to the point where it's just like if it's not warranting enough of my attention to put it on the notes. I mean, come on, we're already almost 3 hours into what I said was going to be a short show. And
Correct. Correct.
we're missing NXT right now. I'm gonna have to go back and watch the replays and stuff.
Yeah.
It's whatever.
So that brings us to today's news.
Yeah.
We got such a
Ryan,
late start.
what's up? Yeah. So I mean, since we're coming in at the evening shift, we can actually get all of today's news. One
Yeah.
less thing we have to take care of next week. We have the remnants of Keiji Muto, the Great Muta, his retirement show.
Yeah.
He puts on. I managed to catch the highlights this morning because I was up at the ungodly hours for no reason, and I was reading a lot of the highlights as they were coming in and whatnot. Keiji Muto, the Great Muta, another man who I have watched his career since I was a child.
Yeah.
Watching him hang up his boots against one of my favorite Japanese wrestlers in Tetsuya Naito.
Yeah.
Was it at 4 a.m.? Because that's when I woke. It actually was around 4 a.m., Ryan. It was around that time. It was. It was I watched a lot of the highlights, a lot of the spots. They both, I mean, even in his old years, this being his retirement match, Keiji Muto, an all-time great, put on a hell of a show. And then afterwards, as he's thanking everybody, he surprises everybody. He calls Masahiro Chono, his rival for so many decades, calls him off of commentary, tells him to get in the ring. He wants one more match. calls Tiger Hattori out of the crowd to be the referee. This is a spotlight of all things 90s Japanese wrestling.
Yeah.
Like this is for your Japanese historians right here.
Poetic.
It was entirely poetic. It was only it was a short, sweet, quick little like ceremonial match, if anything. Masahiro Chono gets one last victory in the Tokyo Dome over Keiji Muto. The end of a beautiful career. And honestly, like, roses.
Yeah.
Throw the roses. It was beautiful.
Yep.
And then on that same show, the only other thing that was really noted, IWGP champion Kazuchika Okada facing GHC heavyweight champion Kenta Kiyomiya, or Kaito Kiyomiya rather. I had Kenta on the mind there, and let me tell you, this all spawned. For those of you that don't know, this all spawns again from Wrestle Kingdom Night 2. This is the second year now that they've done New Japan versus Pro Wrestling Noah as like a whole like company versus company thing. And they've been doing this now this is the second year they've done it. And during the main event of Wrestle Kingdom, it was a tag match between Kiyomiya and I forget who was on his team versus Makabe and Okada. And there's a point in the match where Kiyomiya just kicks Okada in the face, square on, and Okada just snaps. He just straight up fucking snaps. All the highlights from that night on Wrestle Kingdom is just Okada. They forget the match altogether, and the two of them just start brawling the entire match outside, just straight up like beating the ever loving shit out of each other. And that's what we got last night. The two of them beating the ever-loving shit out of each other once again. I think they have great chemistry, but at the same time, it looks like the two of them genuinely hate each other. Like, it looks a lot like Cody and Seth last year.
Nice.
It looks a lot like that. And then, to finish it off, Okada just lays it in. This was not Okada getting a hard-fought win. This was a mugging. This was a straight up, and this was like everything I was saying, like all the comments that were like all the like quotes that were on all the clips on Twitter and everything were like, this was not Big Brother like taking care, like showing little brother how it's done. This is Big Brother taking little brother out back and making him his bitch. Like legitimately, that's what all the comments are saying. I'm watching these videos. He did the whole. You know it's bad when the champion of one company pins the champion of another company and does the whole forced falls finish. Pulls the
where he
arm
lifts
up,
him back up.
Pulls him back up, gives him an emerald flosion. Waits till he gets up, combos right into another rainmaker and another rainmaker, puts him down. Ass whooping.
Sends a message for sure.
It sends a message, basically says, New Japan is the show in town.
Mm-hmm.
We love you, Noah, but you'll never be New Japan.
Correct.
We love you, Ring of Honor, but you'll never be WWE. That's what it felt like. It's essentially what the two felt like.
Mm-hmm.
And then back to all the rest of the news from today. Evan Ingram asking for a long-term deal.
Yeah. He balled out towards the end of the season, man. He was a late pickup on my fantasy team, and he helped me.
I've always been a fan of his, even when he was with the Giants. I thought he was great.
And the only issue right now is at the tight end position, you have Travis Kelce and everyone else.
Yeah, so I remember, I was preaching this all throughout our fantasy football season. Tight end has become the position that is like, you either find the right one for your fantasy team because there are so few like elite caliber tight ends, or you're screwed for the year. And this was a year where like, we did start seeing some big names really pop up and start making a name for themselves. And one of those especially, I have to agree, was Evan Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to take that. What's the word I'm looking for? I want to transition from that into the fact that today is the opening of the franchise tag window. And
Yep.
Evan Ingram is one of 8 names that was actually listed as being the top 8 likely candidates to get franchise tagged. To name the other ones that were put on that list, obviously Lamar Jackson tops that list. That's an obvious pick. 2 and 3 though come from the same team, which of course you only get one. Daniel Jones or Saquon.
Yeah.
If you had to use this franchise tag on one of the two,
Saquon.
Yep.
I think Saquon is the better overall player. Daniel Jones has done well. Don't get me wrong.
again,
I don't like talking.
We
I don't like talking
we had
nice
this
about
discussion 2 weeks ago about how I think he deserves like a good like couple year $30 million contract.
I think Daniel Jones asking for 40 mils is a little crazy. But I think Saquon is more important to your team's success than Daniel Jones is. However, if I am the Giants, I do try to keep both of them.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a great decision. But at the same time, like I would love to see again, I got love for Daniel Jones. He's a Blue Devil. So
I got love for Saquon. He's a Nittany Lion.
Yep. We got love for our college teams. Moving on that list, Jordan Poyer for the Bills. That would make all the sense in the world. The only reason I say that it wouldn't make sense is the fact that Poyer's kind of old.
A little bit.
He's 32.
NFL wise, yeah.
He's 32. For the NFL, that's old.
It is. It is.
At the same time, when you play in the secondary, you tend to have a little bit longer of a career.
A little bit.
A little bit longer. So it makes sense. I could see Jordan Poyer still putting in another 4 or 5 years in the league.
Yeah.
As long as he stays healthy.
I agree with that.
Evan Ingram, as I mentioned. So the tag, it shows here that the tag number for a tight end would be about 11.3 mil.
Yeah, I mean,
it says here that relative to his 2022 contract, though, it's only an increase of about 2.5 mil. I'd say he's worth it.
I agree, but I also think that's why he wants a long-term deal.
And it says that he's interested in staying. But again, if you can't come to terms on that deal beforehand, a tag is available.
And Calvin Ridley and Evan Ingram on the same side of the ball with Trevor Lawrence throwing it to him.
And let's not forget James Robinson in the back. Not James Robinson. Travis
Etienne.
Etienne put in work for me this year. He put in work. Like that was in the league that I was doing good in. Etienne put in some work for me, not ours.
Not ours.
Deron Payne for the Commanders. I think that's a solid. That would be a solid tag. I think he's great on their line. Josh Jacobs. If the Raiders can't come to a deal with Jacobs in time, tag him.
And Jacobs has come out and said that he wants to stay with the Raiders, which I don't get why. He's very talented. He came into his own this year, especially. Excuse me. But hey, if he likes Vegas and he likes the Raiders, man, good for him. And if they can't work out a deal, like you said, the tag is available.
He's still the league leading rusher right now. So
yep.
What can you do? And the final one, Orlando Brown. He says he wants to remain a Chief, but he got tagged last year. Are they really going to tag him 2 years in a row?
Might.
I mean, if anybody can afford it, it's the Chiefs.
Yeah. And one notable name that's left off that list, and maybe it's because I'm a Cowboys fan, but I am shocked that Tony Pollard was not on that list.
I think Tony Pollard getting tagged would not be worth it. It's especially when you guys have too much. How much cap space are you guys working with right now? Because that's gonna be the huge factor in there as well. Is like how much money are y'all gonna be able to pay him if y'all tag him? And if that's the case, what's that gonna do for Zeke's contract?
That can't be right. Because we have $6.5 million in cap space, but that can't be right.
No, that sounds about right. Y'all got some big contracts on your team.
Zeke has said that he's willing.
He's willing to renegotiate.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I don't think we let Tony Pollard go. I hope we don't. I really hope we don't.
I mean, if you let him go, he's going to command a high price in free agency. I know the Panthers have talked about picking him up.
Yeah. But sticking with franchise tags, there's reports coming out of Baltimore that the Ravens are going to tag Lamar, but they could be tempted to move him through a trade. I just think that in order to trade Lamar, you're getting rid of multiple first-round picks.
I agree. I think the only way at this point, especially because
their asking price would be astronomical.
Well, actually, I would take that back. I disagree. I think Baltimore is stupid enough to let him walk for lower than he's worth.
Probably would be.
I think that's inevitably what's going to end up happening. I think
because why aren't they paying him?
Exactly. If they were going to treat him right, they would have done that a long time ago, instead of waiting this long to tag him again, just to tag him.
Yeah.
No.
I agree.
No. At this point, you're just fucking with the man, and that's completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
Pay the man.
He was an MVP 3 years ago, and MVP for a fucking reason.
Yeah. The only reason they didn't do good this year is because he had zero help.
And he got injured. Look what happened to him when he wouldn't play. I mean, Tyler Huntley did almost win him a playoff game.
But again, and I called this halfway through the season, though. I said Lamar and Mark Andrews were both gonna get hurt because of the fact that there was too much having to rely on both of them. You got rid of all their weapons. Rashad Higgins was their number one receiver, and he was wishy-washy all year with his health. You got rid of Hollywood Brown, who was your number one receiver by a long shot. Who was still why you ever let him walk away, I don't know. And then outside of that, your receiving core is really thin.
I agree.
Not a lot of big names coming out of that camp.
Yeah.
And especially when right now you've got a lot of issues in your backfield with people staying healthy. You need a quarterback that has wheels.
Yep. Absolutely.
They should have paid Lamar a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Quick health note.
Finishing.
Yep. Go ahead.
Finishing up with just some quick injury news from both wrestling and NFL. Mecole Hardman of the Chiefs, but he is a free agent, underwent a successful groin surgery today. And then the other one that I didn't know about, but you threw it in there, was Kurt Angle went under the knife.
Yeah, I read something earlier today that he announced he was going under the knife. He's just going in to clean up some of the arthritis around his neck and whatnot. I mean, he's been looking a little stiff lately, anyways. I get ads for his meal prep company or whatever on Instagram, and he just looks like all the mass in his traps was just making him hunch over because it was just so swollen up. It didn't look like it was comfortable.
So good for him for getting that. I did steal what you wanted to close on accident by talking about Be a Man and the record. But there's something from the Elimination Chamber notes that we didn't talk about, and I think it's a great way to close out this week's episode.
I was going to close out with something else real quick, but it's okay.
Oh,
good. Well, you go ahead.
Okay.
You first.
Well, you're the one who wrote this note, but our first trailer for Mania.
Oh, how did I forget to talk about this? I absolutely love this trailer.
I did too.
This is everything I wanted it to be.
So, WrestleMania Goes Hollywood is the tagline this year.
Which, again, when they did this last time, back in, 2007 for WrestleMania 23?
Yeah.
Or 22, 23, whichever one it was. Those were some of my favorite, promos ever. When they did, the remaking some of the famous films.
Yeah.
And they're doing that again this year. And the first one we get, they didn't even copy a movie. They just copied the characters.
Yeah.
You get Seth doing Joaquin Phoenix's Joker dance on the steps.
And doing the symphony. Yeah,
it was so beautiful. And the way they added in, they meshed in his music to it as well.
Yeah.
And then Becky just stops them and it's just what are you doing? It's just
And Becky being like, "I'm going back to the man cave," and him being like, "I didn't know we had a man cave."
It's my man cave. Or what's with the face paint? It's exfoliating. What's with the voice?
That was great.
If this is what the commercials are gonna look like this year, I'm 100% sold.
Sign me up.
I've seen they had videos of like I guess like Rhea doing the Stranger Things stuff in the background, like her doing like 11 in the doctor's gowns and stuff and whatnot from like season 1, season 2, or like season 1 early Stranger Things. We saw the brawl. We've been told the Brawling Brutes are doing one for the 40-year-old virgin. Somebody's getting like, they're doing the waxing scene.
Can't wait.
I'm interested. I know Miz and Marisa are apparently doing La La Land. There's gonna be some good ones this year. I'm excited.
I film those quick if she's pregnant.
I'm pretty sure they're already filmed.
Yeah.
They've already like put them together, and they're just like getting ready. I'm pretty sure they've had those. The only thing I wanted to close on real quick. Let's have a little bit of fun. Let's do some picks for this week's XFL games.
Okay.
All right.
I actually have the schedule pulled up because that's how I picked my team.
I have it pulled up as well. So, first off, we have the St. Louis Battlehawks at the Seattle Sea Dragons. What do you think?
Give me the Battlehawks. They had a hell of a comeback.
Give me the Sea Dragons. I think Danuch finds a way to get his first win on this one. He makes a statement.
Okay.
Shows that last week's loss is not a fluke. It was just the one time that he's worth it.
Okay.
I don't want to see. I got a lot of love for Danuch. Ever since he was on Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
I've always had love for Danuch. DC Defenders versus Vegas Vipers.
I know you're going with the Defenders because that's your team.
And the Vipers look like shit.
Give me the Vipers. Rod Woodson, their coach. I can never pick DC to win anything unless we're talking hockey. So go Vipers.
That's fair. The San Antonio Brahmas versus the Orlando Guardians.
Give me the Brahmas. That's my team.
Also taking the Brahmas. And the Arlington Renegades versus the Houston Roughnecks.
Go Houston.
I'm going Houston too.
I'll go Houston.
All right. Yeah. So that'll do it for us. I'm interested to see how those picks will come out.
Yeah.
That's gonna do it for us, though. Hell of a week. What I thought was going to be a short episode, we ended up going really in depth. Somehow.
Nothing wrong with it, though.
Hey, yeah, you love to see it. Thanks everybody for coming out. If you guys are watching this afterwards on YouTube, of course, again, thanks for sticking around. Give us a like, leave a comment, smash that subscribe button, hit the bell, hit the bell to know when new episodes drop. I don't know what do all the other big YouTubers say. I got to work on this. Go easy on me. I'm still new.
Tentative plans to go back to noon for next week.
Yes. This again was just a one-off. Schedules kind of got a little jumbled. You got called in to work. I had to go take care of
an hour and a half later.
I had to go take care of paperwork up at the hospital. And it was all fun stuff. Yeah, but that's gonna do it for us. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We will see you next week. We're gonna have some news to talk about. We actually didn't end up getting to talk about that Peyton Brady discourse that we were going to talk about this week, but
yeah,
it's okay. We had plenty to talk about afterwards, and
long off season.
We'll save it for a week when we have like nothing going on, and like we just need some discussion. Yeah, that's gonna take care of it for us though. We'll see you guys next week. Until then, y'all take it easy, keep blazing, stay amazing. Y'all have a good one.